Hello, and welcome to GGD Gaiden Episode 8, aka the Extended episode. Now, I know what you're thinking. Extended? What are you talking about? These guys are already doing 4-hour episodes consistently. But don't worry. That's more in relation to our countdown topic today. But we'll be getting into that later. First, I have to introduce my cadre of chaos. I just really wanted to use the word cadre on the show. I was thinking about that earlier, so I had to work that in. Starting with the host who boasts the most roast, Mr. Hunter Pearson. Hunter, what's good?
Did I just get described as a host? Is this because I replaced you last time?
It is, yeah. And you did an amazing job.
I appreciate that. I am so glad to have you back. Hosting is, it's no joke for sure. It's a lot of prep, and I full on appreciate you more, even more than I did before you left us. But yes, I'm glad you're back too, so that you can maybe cut us off and stop us from going into that, 4-hour window. Maybe we'll cut an hour off of that tonight. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not gonna count my chickens before they hatch. But let me tell you, I'm glad to be back. It was kind of hard getting away from that hind D, but I made it.
I loved that part. Was like one of my favorite parts. Anyway, I'm glad to be here. If I sound a little off, I basically woke up with like a chest cold this morning, so I've been like napping all day and trying to heal up as much as I can for this. But if I seem a little sleepy or a little congested or off, that's the reason. But otherwise, nothing's going to keep me unhappy with this Shadow of Erdtree basically announcement and trailer. That,
yeah,
I mean, what a perfect time for our DLC episode, for probably one of the most anticipated DLCs of all time to like get some love and announcement and date and all that. So and a good day for me for sports ball. Even in my sickness this morning, I went and coached my son's basketball team. We won 29-12. So we're crushing it in the tournament.
Nice.
So far.
Everybody give Hunter a round of applause for his team.
Yeah, doing some solid coaching out there. And then for Zach and I, we're big Tar Heel fans. Tar Heel hat on. The Heels won today, and Duke lost today. That's always makes a good sports ball day. So anyway, glad to be here. I'm excited to talk some expansions.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Coming up next, the Professor of Persona, the Terror of Tartarus, Mr. Brad Russell. Brad, what's good?
Hey, man. What's good? It's good to have you back. It's good to be here today. And it's good to have so many awesome video games to be entrenched in at the moment. As you all know, I'm like neck deep in JRPG right now.
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
Yeah, I'm in like
so many.
Yeah, I'm in like winter heaven. Winter is when I like to play JRPGs, and there's just a ton at my disposal. So I'm having a lot of fun with that.
Nice. Loved hearing that. And lastly, the beard boy of Bourbon Street, Mr. Zach Pearson. Zach, what's good?
A lot of stuff's good. Talking about the beard, it's finally starting to get back full again. And thinking of bourbon, I'm wearing a New Orleans hoodie here. I have a New Orleans bourbon, like Mardi Gras hoodie there. Had a great time on my trip. Happy to be back and spreading organized democracy to the far-reaching worlds and Helldivers. That's been kind of the mainstay as long as I've been able to get into play, which luckily now that is working perfectly. But yeah. Everything's going great. Happy to be back. Happy to be playing tons of games, and stoked to drop off from the face of the world here in about a few days. Not really, as Final Fantasy VII Rebirth comes out, because
baby,
it'd be hard to reach me. I think
now everybody here is abstaining from the demo, correct?
100%. I'm not going to play the demo.
I'm 100% media blackout.
I'm just going to want to do that from scratch. Yep. Yeah, it is
Right
JRPG.
I respect it.
I think we're past the point of wanting to see anything and just wanting to get our hands on it.
I mean, I looked at a few, like, I didn't even read any words from reviews, just was looking at some like scores from people that I know, like would review that game in the way that I would want to see it. And all of them were like, yay, it's good.
Just about.
It's fun. Let's go.
just so folks know, we were originally going to include Rebirth in Hype Off this month, but the reviews dropped a week early, and so we were thinking we would have time before any reviews hit, and Thursday rolled around, and sorry, folks, we had to
shift it,
cut that out. So
shift things around.
It's one of those things with having a game release like at this point in the month is that we could get them or we could not. We'll just kind of up in the air. So
probably a good thing knowing us, because we probably would have spent like 35 minutes gushing about it, and now we won't. You know, maybe we still will. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows where this show's going to go. Anyway, I know where it's going to go next. It's going to go to News Bytes. This is the section where we all bring a news story recently that has piqued our interest, and we'd like to share it with each other and the community. So I'm going to kick things off this time with my news bite. This is from Kotaku. Actually, this is most of the information in this article is in reference to Bloomberg's coverage of this, but my article is Bummer, PS5 entering the latter stage of its life cycle, Sony says. So basically, I think it was last week, Sony had an earnings call. I think it was like their third quarter earnings call, something like that. And they were talking a lot about the PS5 and how it's been selling and kind of the trends. And during that call, they mentioned that it seems like the PS5 is starting to lose steam, starting to slow down, and so Sony's starting to look to the future, which is not unreasonable, I would say, considering that most consoles seem to have about a 7-year life cycle. So the PS5 released in November of 2020, so it's been about 3 years and 3 months since this thing first started rolling out. The thing that was a little bit disappointing to me was kind of the full context of the quote, which was from Sony Senior Vice President Naomi Matsuoka, who said, "Looking ahead, PS5 will enter the later stage of its life cycle. As such, we will put more emphasis on the balance between profitability and sales. For this reason, we expect the annual sales pace of PS5 hardware to start falling from the next fiscal year." Also, during that call, they mentioned that there won't be any like major tentpole first-party Sony releases over the next year. They didn't say that they weren't going to release any games, and obviously they are, because they've got a lot of kind of partner releases, like Stellar Blade is coming out, Rise of the Ronin is coming out. That's all stuff that's being published by Sony, but it's not internally developed, and it's not anything from their big first-party studios. For me, it's a little bit disappointing, because I was looking back to try to see kind of what Sony has put out in the last almost 3.5 years. And it's actually a pretty short list in terms of what is PS5 exclusive. PS5s are not cheap. They're $500. A lot of people were clamoring to get them initially, and so for me it's just a little disappointing to see them already talking about moving on. And the PS4 had a pretty lengthy tail, and there's been a lot of like cross-gen games that have come out for both PS4 and PS5. But I just want to read a short list here of like PS5 exclusives that you can't play on PS4 as well. We have Astro's Playroom, which is a great game that came with the PS5. The Blue Point developed Demon's Souls, which is a great game as well.
Very good.
Destruction All-Stars. You guys remember that game?
Yeah.
I actually own that game. It came in one of the, speaking of like the hard to get PS5s, it came in like one bundle one time, and the person didn't want it, so I just was like, I'll keep it, I guess. So it's still wrapped up. I'm never taking it out.
Yeah, I don't even know if the servers are live on that game at this point.
They are. I get TikTok videos of people playing it still. I've seen a lot of people actually going in. All they try and do is just sit there and dodge cars instead of actually trying to play the game.
Who's going to want to play that now that Foam Stars is out there?
Yeah. Jeez.
So there's also Returnal, which is a fantastic game if you haven't played it. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
Amazing.
the Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores DLC specifically, because that was not on PS4.
Right.
Marvel Spider-Man 2. And then the Last of Us Part 2 remaster and Last of Us Part 1. That's everything that you can play from Sony, from first party, on your PS5 that you can't play on your PS4. Technically as well, we should mention Helldivers as well. But that's not a first party game. That's a second party game.
Yeah. Well,
so
I think that
just looking at that list, there's good games there, but I just kind of expected at this point that there would be more. And to talk about not having any like major first party releases over the next year, and they're already talking about kind of winding things down, it's just kind of sad to me because so many people couldn't even get a PS5 for like 2 years. Hunter, you got how many people PS5s that couldn't get them?
I don't know. It was. I had the
Dozens?
number. I had it in the number, an actual number at some point, but to satisfy Bob Buell and his 99 questions, this most recent podcast of his, we'll call it 2 baker's dozens at least. How about that?
Okay,
so,
that's fair.
Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I guess there was more of an emphasis with the PS5 though on having games go across both platforms. I mean, it's hard not to include things like Ragnarok and that, even though you could play it on PS4. It's not like that was didn't feel like a full-on PS5 exclusive release.
For sure. I agree. But I'm just looking at I bought this machine to get, the most out of my PlayStation experience. And I guess I do with games like Ragnarok and with Horizon Forbidden West because they're going to run better. They're going to look better on the PS5. But I kind of have this expectation as well that, if I'm like a jumping in hot and heavy, ready to go for PS5, that they're going to have a lineup for PS5. And otherwise, I could have just stuck with my jet engine and played those games on PS4,
Well, yeah, it's PS5 Pro time now, right?
Yeah, and honestly, that's probably coming within the next year. They're going to put that mid-cycle console out, and then everybody's going to want to get one of those too.
Which, I mean, one of the, I guess, things I took away from this and thinking about that being in the later half of its life cycle, which is crazy to me to even think about, because I felt like PS4 was with us for a while, and this just feels very quick that we're getting here. One of the biggest reasons to want to get to the PS5 was the difference, the upgrade there between what you had with the PS4, even I never had a PS4 Pro, but even from the PS4 Pro, as I heard, to the PS5, it was a substantial upgrade in the technology. Things ran faster. It was there was so much new tech stuff that they put in that really made a difference, that made people want to get it. And I think lots of people at this point have them. But I'm just seeing what's coming out for consoles and things that they talk about as upcoming stuff. I just don't see what is going to make the need to buy a PS6 if they do this here in 3 years reasonable. Why do I need this if the technology is not getting that much better as far as the graphics cards, or the memory is already about as fast as you go? Maybe you can get more memory on it, but then you can upgrade your PS5 already to get more memory. I don't know. I'd like to see them maybe prolong the cycle a little bit. Let us get in there, enjoy it, get some more games out. But I can't tell them how to make a business decision.
Consoles have been on this curve for a while now. There's just this diminishing return with each one. That's there's just only so far that they can push the actual power of these things into creating better experiences. And like the PS5 is definitely better than the PS4, but every time I go and watch my son play games on the PS4, I'm like, you know what? This looks really good. Like, there's really not a humongous
Last of Us
difference.
Part 2 looked darn good.
He's playing like Ghost of Tsushima, and I was like, this is every bit feels like a good looking game. Like, you're not missing out on the experience playing that on a PS4. So, especially on the PS4 Pro, which is what he's playing it on.
I guess another thought about it is just something that Sony, I think, should be doing more of instead, which is getting their TVs that can run at that 120 frame rate at 4K more affordable for people, because that's one of the big upgrades that they've done. And it's still incredibly expensive for anyone to even play or to get one of those TVs. Like I looked at one the other day and it was like $2,300 just for the one that I wanted. And I was like, that's not worth.
Might as well just use a computer monitor at that point, which is what I use to get that out of the PlayStation. Anyway, yeah, it feels like, I'll just add this one last thing though. Like, I think it feels like it's a shorter period of time because of, the pandemic and the difficulty to come by them. And that was almost like a real life MCU blip we went through. It's like just giant blur. And it feels like we just got these things. We're already talking about them being like phased out. And it's weird to hear, but you're still also like probably, really a few years away from that really fully happening.
Sure. So. Yeah. No, I mean, typically the best stuff comes in the back half of the console's life, because that's when they're really dialing into the hardware. So I think that we're going to get some good stuff coming, but I just hope that, they're not pushing it too fast, because I don't know. I feel like my PS5's got a long way to go still, and it still needs some more love. So
yeah.
100%. Yes, sir.
Anyway, all right. Well, that will end that, and we'll move on to Zach's news bite.
All right. Well, what I brought today is an article that I found on Games Radar talking about a breaking news story for the speedrunning community. After 12 years, Zelda Ocarina of Time has shaved off 70 seconds on the world record for the Beat Ganon category. And if anyone's done any kind of speedrunning or watching this stuff, that's insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Especially
for a game that old.
Especially, well, that's the thing is they're still finding new things. So to kind of give a little bit of backstory on it, there's tons of glitches that happen in the game, and that's how they've historically gotten to Ganon and beat him. The way that they've done it for years was they would go to the Deku dungeon, they would grab, they'd have to have a bottle, they grab a bug, and then after they beat the boss in the Deku dungeon, they have to play the ocarina as they're going through the portal, but then somehow get over to the door and go through the door at a frame perfect moment that then teleports them all the way to Ganon. And this has been known as the Ganon door strategy, and they used this for a long time. They had up until it was 12 years ago, so that'd be 2012, I guess, was when the most recent world record was set for this. And then in 2017, a user in the speedrunning community for Ocarina of Time by the name of Danny B was messing around in I had the name of this down here. The Dondoro dungeon, the second one that you get in the game up on Mount Doom. And they're working with a specific glitch that is basically going to allow them to overload the level by copying what you're doing, or copying the pixels in the level by getting outside of the boundaries, and thus turning all of the static pixels, the ones that you would walk on and interact with, turning them into non-static pixels, so you would just fall through. The collision goes off the map. You can't do anything. And they figured out this, and then they're testing it, they was like, oh, these pixels, some of them have the ability to have the exact location to get to Ganon's door, to anywhere you want to in the game. So I wonder if we could use this. So they started testing it. And just making, in 2021, they started testing, or not 2021, in January, they started testing, of this year, they started testing, I wonder, exactly how we could get this done, because we figured out that this is something that's messing up as a glitch, so let's mess around with this. And the same user who was the first one who found out that the specific room in the dungeon would have these collision issues and would be able to pull this, within 3 minutes of testing, figured out the perfect way to have it teleport them to Ganon. This is purely by luck. They would have figured this out probably after a couple of years, but he did a certain set of movements, and it's like hitting the jackpot. Just found the perfect settings immediately. And so January 18th, they figured this out. January 19th, they did a test run on it in the game, but they did it at night, which ended up being an issue because it made the game crash. So they figured out they have to do this exact set up in the middle of the day and then go jump. Then when they go to jump in the specific pixel, it will then take them to Ganon. By the 24th of January, the world record had already been beaten. And then it's continuously gotten beaten more and more and more and more over the next few days after that. And the community as a whole is expecting that throughout this year, they're going to solidify this run. They're going to make it even more streamlined. And we will see even more time taken off of this, which, as you said, for an old game like this, it's amazing that they're finding new stuff. But
it's crazy to me how these people actually find these things at all.
You know why? It's because they're a bunch of Ganon dorks, and they have nothing is impossible for the Ganon dorks. Well, except for probably getting laid. But
Ooh,
I'm just kidding. They probably have a whole bunch of, like, I would think the guy who gets the world record is definitely, prime target for, somebody out there looking for that. Anyway,
these guys are amazing. That they found some of the weirdest stuff. I think, just to put this out there, is one of my favorite uses of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is actually that there is a glitch used within it to get the speedrun world record for Paper Mario. They have to start up the game in Legend of Zelda and then switch over. It's just crazy what they find in this stuff. But
yeah.
So you mentioned
that's cool. That's
I saw
cool,
that
man.
they called this one new one the Ganonfloor. Did you mention that?
Yes. I did not. I was going to get. Okay. I had not gotten to that
yet.
Yeah.
So
go from the Ganon door to the Ganonfloor.
And then floor. It's because you're going through the floor technically, and that's why they're calling it the Ganonfloor. At least that's what I got from when I looked at it. It's amazing.
I think they've now run out of good puns, so they better not find anything else, because it's just not going to work if it's the Ganon tree or something.
Yeah. Before we get Ganon bored, we're gonna move on to the next.
real quick, I just want to shout out to the person who did the video in the article. If you go look at the article, go listen to the video. He does an extremely in-depth video on the setup and the history of this, as well as all the techniques that's required to use. He goes by Lunatic to J on YouTube. It's very, very interesting, everything that went into getting this done.
I would also like very quickly to add that I feel like Zach needs to reflect internally and realize that he is just a speedrunner waiting to come out. I feel like we've done 8 episodes and he has talked about speedrunning in most of them. He loves speedrunning.
I appreciate the craft. I've tried it a couple times and I like my broad spans of games so much that I could not dedicate myself to one game enough to do that.
You haven't found your game yet. We'll just leave it at that.
Okay,
but
fine.
One of these days you'll get there. Anyway, Brad, take us into your news bite.
All right. So mine comes from inverse.com. It's titled From Pixels to Playlists, the Nostalgia of Game Soundtracks. Wow, there's a lot here to talk about, but basically, let's boil it down. There's been studies that have gone on for quite some time, heading back to the 80s even, just about music in general and its nostalgic ability to, tie you to certain times in your life and to kind of safeguard certain memories, that kind of thing. I think we all know this in our lives, right? When a certain song comes on the radio that you haven't heard for some time, we're teleported kind of back to maybe a period in our life that we haven't thought about for a while. So this study, specifically about video game soundtracks, took place in 2022. They were able to establish MRI evidence that specifically video game soundtracks that you experience between the ages of 10 and let's say 21 are the things that are kind of cemented in your mind for life. So what they're starting to do is kind of point toward, potentially studying this, to help people with memory loss issues and things like that. Not only will it, jog memories from a time, but it can also help you access, maybe some things that have slipped past you over the years. So really cool to see, someone kind of take this in a video game direction. We're really, at least the three of us here, Hunter and Wes and myself, are a certain age where we're kind of the first video game generation. So, we're the first people to really have it at an adolescent age and grow up to be adults at this point. So, a lot of this study focuses on some stuff that we probably experienced when we were kids. And I just think the article's really neat. And like I said, I won't go on and on. It's on Inverse. Check it out. There's way more in depth on this thing than I can go into today. But, not only does like nostalgic video game music improve mood, like it also helps keep your memory sharp, which is super neat.
Yeah. And
Anyone check it out?
All of these will be in the description for people who want to go click on these articles and look into them, because there's a lot more to them than what we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so listen to your favorite old video game soundtrack and feel your mood.
Dude, absolutely, 100%. Like, I mean,
Chrono Cross.
There are some games.
I was just thinking about that. That was the exact one.
I think a lot of us
it's once a week. I have to go listen to it. It's so good.
I hear like it just depends on the game. Like if I hear Tecmo Bowl or Contra, I'm immediately teleported to my friend Jonathan's basement, and I can smell his mom frying something upstairs.
I thought you were going to say something else.
No, I can't smell his. No, his mom smelled like Virginia Slims, but she was always frying like something like chicken or which she fried a lot of catfish. It's an Alabama thing. It's a lot of fried food, but I don't even know if it was supposed to be brown, but brown carpeting, I can like feel it. I mean, every time that music comes on, I'm immediately teleported. So I get it.
Takes you back.
I get it.
Yeah.
I was listening to just randomly got on this like Witcher 3 kick with the OST for Witcher 3, which is an amazing OST. And that wasn't even that long ago. That was only 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And it's just like, getting the tingles and just.
Dude, one of my favorite things about doing this podcast is when we have to go collect music for like the editing. I'm just like doing work and listening to music, and it's the best.
We talked about doing a musical top 10 before, and it's going to happen at some point.
Yeah, we'll have to do something like that.
Brad's keeps pushing that in the forefront. So one of these days, Brad, we'll make it happen.
It's on the list.
All right. Hunter, hit us with your news bite.
10-hour episode.
Buckle up. My news bite comes from the Video Games Chronicle. It's called Helldivers 2 Dev says games need to earn the right to monetize. And I love this article. I love this entire basically conversation. So it all kind of came from the CEO of Arrowhead, the makers of Helldivers 2, Johan Pilestad. He was responding to a fan on social media who the fan was just rightfully praising their approach to monetizing Helldivers 2. And he responded to the fan he said, and I'll read it. He said, "You have to earn the right to monetize. I truly believe that. If people want to support this title, they have an option, but we are never forcing anyone to do so." Over the last week, I have just fallen in love with this developer and their entire approach to this. A completely separate thing from this article, but there was another thing that came up where somebody was like, "Hey, it'd be awesome if you put PvP in the game." And this guy came out again and he said, "We're never going to put PvP in this game, because we want this to be a cooperative, companion, friend experience. And we don't want to invite any level of toxicity. We love multiplayer games. We love PvP games. Go play Tarkov. That's one of our favorites. It's never coming here." And I just think they have such a good vision for this and understanding of what is making it so freaking popular right now. And a big part of that is, the game wasn't expensive on launch. It wasn't like a $70 game. It was $40. And immediately when you get in there, you're playing the game, you're earning credits, you're collecting samples, and you go into this menu where you're gonna buy things, but you're buying them with the in-game currency, and there's like a really well designed kind of laid out, like where you can kind of look ahead to see like, oh, I want that. Like I know I got to earn to get that. So it kind of creates the grind level of this game. And it makes it more fun because you have a goal in mind. It's kind of like Monster Hunter in that way, where you know what you're kind of working towards. And there's not anything that you can't get with in-game currency. Like that right off the bat is so perfect. And when you don't, as a player, feel forced into like shelling out money for things that you want, that people hide behind little paywalls and other things like that. I really think it entices players to actually spend a little bit of money, when they need to. They don't feel like pressured into it at all. And this game is like, it's just such a case study in comparison to like a lot of other games out there, like the EA type games that they don't even drop you on title screens anymore. They drop you on store pages. And you're just like, fuck you, game. Like, don't take me to the store page right away. Like, that's so gross. Ugh.
I wonder, not to dig too deeply into this, but reading through this article made me curious, though. He's talking about monetizing, like, with microtransactions specifically, but this is a $40 game, so this is a game you have to pay for. It's not like a free-to-play game, right? So how does that differ? How does that differ from a free-to-play game where the only money that they're bringing in is the money from microtransactions? Because
the microtransaction currency, you can just get in game.
Yeah,
you can find it and you can earn it. It's a slower process, but if you want to just do that and you save up enough, you can just be like, okay, I played for a while. I have this many. Oh, cool. There's that item I really like in the revolving super credits store is what they call it. And you can pick it up at any time not any time. You can pick it up when it's in there as long as you have enough, but you're not forced to spend any money on it. And even with the amounts you can spend, it seems like they're extremely generous with, like, as someone who plays enough games that are free, like Valorant, where I have dropped probably more money than I want to admit on skins and stuff for my guns. It's a breath of fresh air to see them say, yeah, you can get this many super credits for $20. And I'm like, that's enough for me to get outfits for like 2 weeks if I wanted to. And it's just really, really well done and does not feel forced in any fashion. I just understand they don't bring you up to a store page as soon as you come in.
You have to go find it.
Yeah, you have to go find it.
Right, but they're also not free to play. So they're making their money on the game, and so they don't have the impetus to have to push that hard.
Yeah,
and they're not.
But how many games cost $70 to do exactly the opposite of this, which is like, it's like, hey, you want this really cool thing, so now you paid $70, and also the cool thing will cost you like $20. Like, it's just insane.
Can't earn it.
No earning it.
As an example of this, the same day that Hunter brought up this article, there was another article I found when I was looking around talking about how Diablo, $70 game when you bought it, they just came out with a new mount, and you can get it for the low price of $65.
Stupid.
Wow.
It's it just feels like a lot of developers they're trying to pinch all the money they can out of their players for something that it's purely cosmetic. It's not going to give you anything in real life. It's not going to like make you the coolest guy in your squad or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It just does not feel like this is forced at all. This is just part of the game that you can do if you want. And if you don't, you can play it and you'll still get stuff from it if you want.
So not to stir the pot, but do you guys feel like this game has earned the right to monetize?
I think it's getting there. And I wanted to kind of finish up with that point is that, yes, even though you're paying $40 for this, like I could see Zach and I and Brad and other people playing this game for a very long time where they are just continuously supporting the game. I mean, this is their baby. This is Airhead's baby. Like they're going to be putting in new stuff. They're going to be putting in new enemies, new environments, like new gear, new stratagems. And so I think the whole point of what he's saying is that it's not that they're not going to monetize that, because like over a long period of time, if they're trying to support the game, they're going to have to financially make that viable. But what he's saying is that we have to earn that from our players. We can't just come out expecting that. And so I think that the trust they've already built up is going to go a long way, and wanting to keep people around to like spend a little extra money for like new stuff that's coming out, you know. And I know I would be willing to, and I think that there's just something about not feeling pressured into it that makes people way more likely to shell out like a few dollars here and there down the road for stuff, you know, because they don't feel like it's a dirty business practice. It just feels like you're supporting a good development team.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, it seems like there's a lot of people that are loving this game as long as they can actually get on a server.
Now.
They have fixed
it's
it.
fine. It's fixed.
We have not had that problem like the last, but oh man, playing that game is just pure joy. It's so fun.
It's a hang.
It's a hang.
Awesome. It really is a hang. Like it feels like a hang.
Yeah,
that's what I hear.
So much fun. All
right, well, that's going to wrap up News Bytes, and we are going to roll right in to the Gaiden Top 10. This month's going to be a fun one. Well, they're always fun ones, but I was particularly excited about this topic because I think there's so much to dive into here. This month we're going to be talking about the top 10 DLCs. So I mentioned that this episode is going to be the extended episode because we're talking about game extensions. We're talking about additional content. Top 10 DLCs. And we've got a hell of a game to start off this top 10. With number 10.
Number 10.
We have Specter of Torment from Shovel Knight. There's only one man qualified to talk about this topic in depth, and that is our very own Brad Russell.
All right. I think show of hands, who played Shovel Knight? Everyone, right? Everyone played Shovel Knight?
Never played it.
No.
Yeah.
You're
What?
kidding, right?
What?
All right. Oh,
that makes me
Should
sad.
I leave? I mean,
No,
am I
not
allowed
at all.
to
Just
hang out
Get the
anymore?
hell out.
I just, I think, Wes, at least the two of us can agree that Shovel Knight is a wonderful game to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
But what happens when you expand upon it by adding, like, additional playable characters and, totally redone maps? What you get is spectacular results.
Oh, baby.
I couldn't help myself.
Good
So
job.
2017, Specter of Torment comes out. It's the second DLC pack released for Shovel Knight after Plague of Shadows, which includes a new playable character, Specter Knight, and the campaign for Specter Knight, as well as adding a body swap mode, a sound test mode that acts like a music player, a co-op mode, as well as 5 additional challenges for the previous DLC, Plague Knight. So that's what you got. Specter of Torment is set up as both like a prequel to Shovel Knight, like the main campaign. I think they call that Shovel of Hope, and Plague of Shadows. So at the mercy of the Enchantress, Specter Knight is tasked with recruiting a circle of knights to serve under her, kind of setting up
no quarter.
Yeah, so kind of setting up the order that Shovel Knight then has to come in, dismantle to get to the Enchantress. So really neat stuff, like right off the bat. Specter Knight plays a lot differently than Shovel Knight does. He's got this very short jump, which would, on its own would make the Shovel Knight maps impossible to traverse. But what Shovel Knight can do is the dash slash, which is, he can do it against like enemies and certain objects. The levels and boss fights have been like completely redesigned, and retrofitted with like strategically placed enemies and objects specifically to take advantage of like this dash mechanic where he does like a slash and gives him like an additional diagonal movement across the screen, so you kind of slash from object to enemy. Like I said, they've completely retrofitted the game just for this character specifically. And it just works. It just works really, really well. I think if I remember right, hearing like a lot of boo hiss when it comes to like the Plague Knight DLC, the one previously to it.
Yeah, that's not my favorite.
People didn't really dig the way like Plague Knight controlled, so I think a lot of us were kind of like, okay, not really expecting a whole lot out of Yacht Club when it came to like Specter Knight, but then it came out and it just worked. It was like a breath of fresh air. They also place like whole sections with like these rails that you can like grind on, like Specter Knight can wall jump, it's almost like playing like Mega Man X after you've been playing Mega Man.
Specter Knight could have almost been on our top 10 ninjas countdown because a lot of his moves are very ninja-esque. That dash flash that Brad was talking about is very similar to the one in The Messenger.
Sure.
Where you just like...
I was thinking that when I went and
really...
like looked it up, like was just looking at footage of it because I had never played it. And I was like, oh man, this does look very like Ninja Gaiden, like Messenger.
Yeah, and he's like running up walls and like slashing dudes to the side. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, the soundtrack has been completely reworked and given like a macabre kind of like feel to it, which is awesome. In addition to reworking the gameplay, like they provided some like surprisingly deep backstory and world building in this DLC. Like you get, not only do you get kind of the setup for Shovel of Hope, but you get to look at like who Specter Knight was before he passed away. So it's got like a really cool and like touching, like playable like flashback parts that are fun. Not to go on, like as far as DLC is concerned, like Spectre of Torment is basically like a brand new game when you consider like what went into making it work, and it definitely belongs on this list. What's more, if you had ordered Shovel Knight prior to any of this DLC coming out, you got it all for free. All of this, including the previous Plague Knight DLC and the future DLC King of Cards, were released absolutely for free. If they've made a new version called
Treasure Trove.
Treasure Trove, right? If you had happen to purchase it after the DLC started, it's like an extra $10 for like this 3 like huge DLCs. Like you just like $10 got you access to the whole thing. Like you just can't complain. Like it's just really awesome.
Sounds like shovelware to me.
Anything
it isn't.
Yeah,
anyway,
I'm just
it's
kidding.
awesome. Go play it if you haven't.
So I was reading Caden's comment on this, and he mentioned, because I think he nominated it, and he mentioned something about like being able to fight the bosses in any order. Like that's super Mega Man, right? Like I was like, man, this is very Brad. I understand why Brad liked this.
Super Mega Man.
So it's a love letter to Mega Man, and it's like if Mega Man and Castlevania and Ninja Gaiden had like a baby.
Yeah, I need to play this. Yeah. It's just one of those that passed me by on whatever.
Yeah, same.
The soundtrack's always amazing too.
It's banging.
So good, so good. If you like, we've all heard Brad's music. Brad's an amazing musician in his own right. If you like what he does, you would love the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Shovel Knight also. I just had a couple other things that really kind of tickle my funny bone going back and looking at this. The healing items that you get as Specter Knight, you get. Normally you get like turkey legs and like like juicy apples. This one you get chicken bones and like rotten apples and carrots.
Yeah, because you're like undead.
Ghost.
Yeah, that's so cool.
It's really good. And then Specter Knight also has his own like curios, like magical relics, like Shovel Knight has, and so he's he's got all this super unique gear and stuff. And it's really
it's like a new game, like which is so
really
good.
Yeah, and King of Cards is no slouch either. I kind of wanted to have like the whole treasure trove on here, but that's kind of cheating. I feel like to have everything like grouped together
Specter,
like that. But
if you ask me, like Specter's the best of the 3, arguably better than the original campaign. Even like I
think it was the only one. I think it was the only one that got nominated, right? I don't think the other expansions.
It was. I didn't feel the point of nominating King of Cards, even though I really like King of Cards, because I agree with Brad. I think Specter Knight's campaign is better, right. But neither of them are bad. And just get Treasure Trove, just get it, and play it. It's awesome.
I don't even think the other version's available anymore. It's like you pretty much pay one price for everything now.
Yeah, could not, maybe not. All right, any other comments about Specter of Torment? No. With that, we'll move on to our number 9 pick.
Number 9.
The very mention of this terrifying race once brought fear to all who heard it. But now we can all rest easy, as our own forces now occupy their very homeworld of Char.
At number 9, we have Brood War from Starcraft. All right, so on this one, it's become a tradition on this show where we always have a guest from the community come in and talk about part of the countdown. So on this episode, we have the one and only Matt Storm, aka DJ Stormageddon, who is a fantastic member of this community. Matt has been on several of the regular GGD podcasts. We did a few really, really fun episodes. Not only Matt, but also Matt's partner on their podcast, the Fun and Games podcast, which is a great podcast in its own right. Come on. I had a debate against Jeff. It was a Final Fantasy Jobs debate, which was awesome.
How fun.
I want to say, I think when Matt came on originally, we did a debate. It was like a Super Mario Sidekicks debate. It was like Cappy versus Luigi, if I'm remembering correctly. It was super fun.
For that one.
But Matt's a fantastic person. Does like 4 podcasts of their own, and including editing the Game Informer Show podcast. Super talented person, and was kind enough to volunteer to talk with us about Brood War. So with that, let's hear from Matt.
So imagine you're a kid in the late 90s and you just got into real-time strategy games. You don't really understand them per se, but you like cool stories, you like interesting backgrounds, and you're looking for any excuse to play more video games on your PC. Then imagine in the late 90s, say 1998, one of the coolest sci-fi real-time strategy games ever comes out. And then you just find out a handful of months later that real-time strategy game also gets an expansion and turns out to be one of the first and best video game DLCs you ever play. I'm of course talking about Starcraft, and specifically Starcraft Brood War. Now, I was someone who didn't play a ton of real-time strategy, but I liked the handful that I liked. Big fan of Red Alert, Command & Conquer, Tiberium Sun, but war-based stuff was never really my thing. So when I found out there was a science fiction style real-time strategy game, I became obsessed. Starcraft became one of my favorite games of all time, and though I don't play it often now, to this day is probably still one of my favorite games ever made. And that is mostly because of its expansion, Brood War. The coolest thing about Brood War is that it extends the story, which not many people talk about when it comes to real-time strategy. But Starcraft had some of the coolest stories going at the time and continues to this day. Now, I don't want to be hugely spoilery, but this expansion, Brood War, is focused on one of the main characters from the original campaign, one of the Terrans named Kerrigan, and how she becomes integral to the life and times of the brood that is the Zerg. The Zerg are my favorite race to play in the game, and Kerrigan becomes their leader and becomes their brood mother. It's a really fascinating story, full of heartbreak, especially in the original game leading into the expansion. And I think this is the first time I ever really realized you could do that with a game. You could release a full game, and this is in the early days of the internet when we weren't patching every little single thing, and then you could release another CD that expands on that original CD and continues to run the game while giving you even more to do. The ways that this game expanded my horizons for PC games and real-time strategy, and also expanded the game itself. Brood War gave you more units, gave you more story, and even more things to do in the custom map creator. I would go on to play this game for many, many years with friends, playing custom Dragon Ball Z-based narrative maps that were created online that we could download and play, just to name a few things. I become obsessed with the characters from this world. It would carry me into its sequel, Starcraft II, Wings of Liberty, though I wouldn't play it for very long. I never played the expansions to the sequel because it just didn't have the same hooks in me that this original game did. I think it's very easy to remember now, when we're talking about DLC specifically, that DLC just comes out. You know, most of it's digital these days. Most games you can get digitally these days. It is rare that DLC is released on a separate disc with a separate box. This was a big deal. It was like buying a second game. You know, I'm brought back to it now as of when I'm recording this. Recently, they announced the new expansion DLC for Elden Ring, and they are selling that separately. You can get a collector's edition of that. That is just not common anymore. But back then, back in the late 90s, when I was playing games on PC and obsessed with space aliens, you could do that. And in fact, it was the common way to get an expansion to a video game. They did it with World of Warcraft. They did it with Blizzard did it a lot with a lot of their games, to be honest. I could go into the nitty-gritty of the expansion itself, but I don't really think that's necessary. I think what's necessary here is to understand that real-time strategy, though still popular now, was, I think, at its height in the late 90s and early 2000s. There were so many different kinds of games you could play in this genre, but I feel like none of them hold a candle to Starcraft and Brood War, a game that I put an embarrassing amount of hours into, and if I had playtime like I do now on Steam and other video game consoles, it would be an exorbitant number that I would be shocked to share. I think what's really great about how this game expands this world is that you get a full story, a full plot that I don't even want to spoil now so many years later, because I think it's some of the best storytelling that Blizzard has ever done. Yes, on top of World of Warcraft, on top of the Warcraft games, on top of everything they've done, Overwatch, I still think that Starcraft and Brood War is some of the best storytelling this company has ever done and continues to be some of the best. It was highly regarded, highly reviewed, 5 out of 5s, 4 out of 5s, 8.9s and 8s out of 10s is what this expansion got when it came out. It continues to be professional competition used in other countries where you play StarCraft competitively. Even though there's been the release of StarCraft 2 since, nothing really hooked the fans of RTS games like Brood War did. It's something wholly original and unique, and unlike anything that's out now. There have even been expansions to StarCraft 2 since, focusing on the Protoss and the Zerg, but I don't think they really hold a candle to this. I can't speak with pinpoint accuracy because I haven't played a ton of those expansions, but I do know that they did not have the reception that Brood War did. To this day, StarCraft and StarCraft Brood War continues to be two of the biggest pieces of media that Blizzard has ever created, so much so that they've even tried to remaster it years later. I've heard mixed reviews about the remaster, that it's definitely better than the Warcraft 3 remaster, but still not as good as this original game and its expansion. I think we take for granted DLC these days. Not that none of it is good. In fact, there's tons of great DLCs that will be mentioned in this list beyond this one, but I think there's something special about how Blizzard handled DLC back then, and specifically DLC like Brood War, and how it effectively felt like a second game. It expanded upon the original, but it felt like a wholly new experience with a brand new story that just continued as a sequel would. And we get that scale sometimes these days too, but I feel like it's just not as special as it was back in this PC day, because it was just so much more. You couldn't just go online and download it with a click of a button. You had to go to the store and pick it up like any other game. And not to sound like an old person, but it just added an impact, I think, when you had to have your parents take you to the video game store to go pick up the latest expansion for your favorite sci-fi RTS.
Right. Thanks so much, Matt. That was awesome. I love
good.
the little touch there of hearing Matt's story, and their experiences when they were younger and just how like unique that was, and kind of the things that we've lost, you know.
Yeah, there are
at this
two
point.
things that I really feel bad for, like some of these younger generations never experiencing, and one of them is having like a pure 100% just like, I know we have like GameStop still, but I feel like there was just something back in the day that was different. I mean, you didn't have any other options. Going to a video game store was all that you had, and like we used to go to like a specific mall, and my parents knew that they wanted to go there because they could just release us upstairs to go to the video game store while they spent some time sans children. And man, it was a mad. Every time we went, Silver Spoon, I was like, oh, I want to go to Babbage's. You know, like.
There's something too, like you know, Matt said about you know, kind of big box PC games. Remember the big cardboard?
Yeah.
Because you'd have like a big old manual in there, and like, you know, maybe a couple of like 3.5-inch floppies, and like, you know, there was like goodies in there. So yeah, I love that part of Matt's thing there. Thank you so much for doing that.
Absolutely. By the way, the other thing that kids will miss out on is slamming phones down. You know, you don't get to slam phones down anymore. You know, slam a pay for now. You're like, man, you're like, oh, I just gotta put my cell phone in my pocket. You can't just like. Anyway, that's a fantastic take. I loved Starcraft, but I just never actually ended up getting the Brood War expansion. I had my sights on other things, I think, at that age, but Starcraft was incredible, and I was looking into this a little bit. There's absolutely right. Like, there's still an avid community of like kind of esports. It's almost like one of the original esports Starcraft, and specifically the Brood War, and they still play it pretty regularly, especially in like Korea. And one of the things I thought was really interesting that I read is that they have been, from like all of these years, extremely adamant about making sure Blizzard does not update Brood War, does not patch Brood War, does nothing to Brood War. They find this expansion to be flawless. They do not want it touched. So yeah, and you know, more StarCraft was never going to be a bad thing, unless it was StarCraft 2, and I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about that, but the original StarCraft, it was a very, very special thing to play back then.
Yeah, for sure. Just one last quick plug. Again, Matt's main gaming podcast is called the Fun and Games Podcast. So please go and check out Matt and Jeff over at Fun and Games. They have a great show over there. And if you like the content of this show, I'm sure you'll love the content over there as well. That said, we're going to move on past Brood War to our number 8 pick.
Number 8.
I'll cover you. Move!
Hey, we're on a ladder here, jerks!
This is Shepard. We need...
That's why I love hanging out with you guys. Why shoot something once when you can shoot it 46 more times?
At number 8, we have the Citadel DLC from Mass Effect 3. And Zach's going to lead us in on the discussion on this one.
Yeah, you'll notice there that Wes said lead. I played Mass Effect 1. Mass Effect is one of those games that just kind of got pushed to the wayside, but I'm going to do my best here to try and do this DLC justice for a little bit of research on it. So one of the things that I remembered from playing Mass Effect 1 was just how good the developers of that game did to flesh out all of your companions and all of the people that you meet in the Citadel and as you go through. And it feels like this DLC, which was the final DLC that they released for Mass Effect, was just the culmination of everything you had done across the trilogy over the years that it had been out, and all of the friends that you'd made, the enemies you killed. It's just a culmination of everything that went down. It really starts out just with Shepard getting tossed into kind of a conspiracy, and you have to go solve this conspiracy with your friends, and not just the friends that you had in Mass Effect 3, friends that you had from along the way from every journey, and that can be dependent on whether they actually survived those other journeys or not. So if you had people that you had in your party in 1 or 2 and they didn't survive, too bad. You can't deal with it, can't have them there. So you could have some of these people that you maybe hadn't had in your party for a long time and go back and play with them and get to interact with them again. And that's, listening to the research, that seems like one of the biggest things for people with this, and especially this being like a culmination of everything, was just they got to get closure with some of these people that they, or some of these crew members that they hadn't seen. They got to talk with them, get more into their lives, figure out what's going on with them. Which for a trilogy like this, and for how much lore there is, how much, like, everything that happens in it, it really brings it all together. And I think is one of the probably biggest reasons that this series is so well received and so still considered one of the best trilogies in all of gaming. They really did a fantastic job with it.
I did play this DLC, by the way. I love Mass Effect. I mean, I don't know how much like I could really pull from remembering it, but you know what it was just like you're saying, it was the ultimate like fan service DLC. And one of my favorite things is that the beginning of it is actually like you're just back in the Citadel, like trying to get some like R&R, you know, like things change because you get attacked by some weird private military corporation, and you know, that gives you like excuses to fight. But really what it does, even more than give you an excuse to fight, it gives you an excuse, or it gave the writers an excuse to just write an absolute metric shit ton of inside jokes that only people who were super fans of the game probably would even get, you know. And they brought in all of the like original voice actors from all of the games across the trilogy, which is kind of impressive when you think about it. Like, good on BioWare for getting that done, because that probably wasn't easy. And yeah, it really is. It's like silly. It's almost like Mass Effect the comedy. Like there's a lot of humor in it, and you get to do
the last episode of Seinfeld of Mass Effect.
Yeah, you get to do. Yeah, right. You get that's pretty good, honestly. It's like that because you get to do all these like goofy things with them. You know, like you're dancing, or you go into like bars. Like there's like a whole entertainment floor to the Citadel that you get access to, and it was really, really fun. I went back and looked through our list too because I wanted to pull. I know that there was some comments that I had read through, and I want to say that we really appreciate. I think it's a lot of fun when people like actually go and, you know, share some of the details about why they love whatever they're nominating. And it was great to actually go back through those and read some of these for Citadel, because I think it adds a lot. Dan was one who nominated this one, but Kevin, Tongue Surgery, had some things to say to it. I'll read Kevin's here first, but he basically talked about how it was nice to have like a DLC quest that wasn't all like doom and gloom, end of the galaxy, total war stuff like that basically populated the entire base game. And then Dan, who said something similar to that, he again, when nominated, he said that this one was a beautiful homage to the relationships you had spent years building with the crew right before you got them all killed in the final battle for Earth. Sorry, I just spoiled Mass Effect 3, but if you haven't played it at this point, then it's your own loss. We spoil things on this podcast, by the way, just a heads up. But really, really a lot of fun. Like, it just was nice, a nice DLC that was just mostly about like having fun and fan service, and they pretty much pulled that off flawlessly. Fans of it absolutely love this DLC.
Yeah, I think it's probably the high point of Mass Effect 3 for most people, honestly, from what I understand.
That or the multiplayer. There's a lot of people who like the multiplayer out there too. But very randomly good multiplayer. Anyway,
right on. Well, with that, we will leave the Citadel behind and travel to the Old West for our number 7 pick.
Number 7.
You take care of yourself. I'd hate to see you get savaged by someone and watch the life force drain from your hate-filled body.
Hey, hold on there. Why don't you join me in my fight, sir? It's not too late.
I fear it is for me.
Then I will fight them alone. All of them. America is the land of the free. And that means free to people like me, Herbert Moon.
Absolutely.
No! Oh, no, no! No! Ah! You can't eat me! I'm Herbert Moon!
At number 7, we have the Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare DLC. Hunter, did you bring your cowboy hat?
I don't have a cowboy hat. I don't have a cowboy hat, no, but that's not a thing that people in Alabama really have. You gotta go down to like Texas for that. I mean, maybe some people do. I don't know. Probably our older brother does. You have something that you
can shoot a zombie with, at least.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
I have plenty of things that I could kill a zombie with, but nothing I could shoot it with, except for maybe like a couple of rubber bands in the drawer here.
All right, well, why don't you tell us about killing zombies in Undead Nightmare?
All right, well, yeah. What a fun... This was like back when like Rockstar like was kind of sillier, I guess. Like, they've always been a bit silly. But like this was around like the GTA 4 kind of like Ballad of Gay Tony, and you know, like I just think that they just didn't really care that this was just going to be basically a silly, like, just fun DLC. Like, it's like they were just sitting around going like, what do you want to do? And it's like, well, we could put zombies in. It's like, yeah, man, let's put zombies in here. And so then you end up with this crazy, off-the-wall, completely non-canon. I mean, like, because, like, you have, I think right at the beginning of the Undead Nightmare, like, what's her face? Abigail and Jack basically, like, turn into zombies. Like,
they do turn into zombies. Uncle bites them.
Uncle turns, like, they all are just like dead, and then they die multiple times. Like, it's just utterly ridiculous in the best way. And one of the best things about it was it just gave you an excuse to play more of Red Dead Redemption, which was always, you know, something that people were going to want to do at all. It's not meant to be taken seriously. It was basically, I mean, Red Dead Redemption is a parody of spaghetti westerns, and Undead Nightmare is a parody of like bad zombie flicks inside of a parody of spaghetti westerns. It's a parody inside of a fucking parody. Okay,
it's as hammy and B-movie as you could absolutely get, and it's absolutely an on its own joke, and it just rolls with it.
It was just created for the sake of amusement, and you know, the actual gameplay was, I mean, it had a lot of the same kind of, like, you know, mission loops. There was like this kind of part, I think the main part was actually like you'd have areas that would get overrun with zombies. You kind of have to go and, you know, shoot them all in the head. I mean, again, you're Red Dead Redemption, like, dead-eyeing like 8 zombie heads. It was absolutely amazing. And there was also like all kinds of other, like, you know, silly quest lines in there. Wes and I were talking about this the other day. Like, both of our personal favorites was, there was this one quest where you thought you had to go like hunt down a bunch of like Sasquatches because you were convinced that they were eating babies. So you just like wandered around just basically like murdering Bigfoots, and then you like actually end up talking to one of them who tells you that
he's the last one.
The last
one.
You
murder all the Bigfoots, and there's only one left.
Yeah, and then he goes like, "Dude, we're vegetarians."
And you're like, "No, you eat babies. Everybody knows it. You eat babies."
Yeah.
He's like, "We eat mushrooms and berries, you fool."
Yeah, and so you end up killing that one. Like, I think that just goes to show the utter ridiculousness of the whole thing. And on top of that, like on top of zombie people, there were zombie dogs or zombie bears or zombie wolves, you know. Eventually you get like probably one of my favorite guns in any video game ever, which also happens to be named a blunderbuss, which is from another game, favorite game of mine. But the blunderbuss was this gun that was it was designed just to be satisfying to kill zombies with, because you would shoot this blunderbuss and they would fucking explode. Like, basically, it didn't matter what distance you were from. Like, if you hit him, it was just like, and you just like, and unlike the rest of the guns, the blunderbuss took zombie bones as ammo. So every time you blew one up, you could go pick up the bones and just load that into your blunderbuss. So you didn't have to worry about ammo anymore. It's just like a free for all, running around, just exploding zombies everywhere. So, I mean,
just good, but the blunderbuss is a real weapon, and that is basically how it was loaded. Was either like buckshot or just basically whatever they had lying around, and it was just a shotgun. So that makes sense. That's fun though.
Yeah, I don't like. I'll turn it over to you. I don't really have like a whole lot else to add. I mean, it speaks for itself. It was very much a non-canon, silly, like just zombie, like campy zombie thing in the middle of Red Dead Redemption. The one thing I'll add is that I think my least favorite thing about Grand Theft Auto 5 Online is that it killed any chance that we were ever going to get a Red Dead Redemption 2 Undead Nightmare, which, like, could you even imagine how freaking good that would have been?
That would be so good.
But they had, I think they, like, I mean, GTA 5 Online is like a money printing machine for Rockstar. So they were not going to make Red Dead Redemption 2 without its own, money printing machine. That didn't pan out, but at that point, I think the ship had sailed and we were not going to get zombies. There are still some really fun, like, weird supernatural things you can come across in Red Dead Redemption 2, but it's nothing like just the hilarity of Undead Nightmare.
Yeah,
it's so fun.
I just wanted to mention some other things that I enjoyed about this DLC. You can get some unique horses in this DLC as well. You can get the 4 horses of the apocalypse. So you can be riding around this like demonic fire horse. You can also
it's
get
like always on fire. There was stuff on fire in that game everywhere, like all the time. Like
everything was on fire. Yeah, you can also get an undead skeletal horse. You can be just riding around this skeleton horse, which is also
that had infinite stamina, I think, right? Like that was one of the great things about that.
And then they also had a unicorn in the game that you could capture. You could be riding around on this unicorn and this be like this rainbow trail like coming out of its ass like everywhere you went, which was really funny. You could hunt down Chupacabra also in this DLC, which was also very weird. They changed all the music to make it like spooky, so there was a lot of like pipe organ stuff, like Frankenstein's monster.
Cool definitely.
But yeah, just the like half the people that you engage with in the main campaign for Red Redemption 1 like get eaten or like get turned into zombies.
They're all dead.
You just have to like like you leave like Nigel West Dickens on his cart like with a bunch of zombies, like he's like, "Help me please, friend," and you're like, "Nah, I'm just gonna leave."
Yeah. It was like Red Dead Redemption, what if, like, what if zombie apocalypse?
No, it's great DLC, and it, like you said, it's a shame that we're not going to get another one for RDR2. All right, I think that's going to wrap up our discussion on Undead Nightmare, and we're going to move on to our number 6 pick.
Number 6.
At number 6, we have the Artorias of the Abyss DLC for the original Dark Souls. It's surprising, actually, that we've gotten this far without talking about a From Software DLC, because they do DLC so well.
They're the best.
But of the Dark Souls DLCs, I genuinely feel like Artorias of the Abyss certainly belongs on this list, because it is really, really strong. I'm a big fan. If you can't tell,
there he is.
Boy.
There's the knight himself.
Knight Artorias.
The Knight of Gwyn.
All right, so I'm just gonna try to do a quick breakdown of this. First off, this DLC is just stupid hard to find. Like, a lot of people bought this thing and they're like, where's the DLC? How do I access the DLC? Because FromSoft is, at this point, it's kind of well known, but they leave things very vague in terms of how you actually access most of the DLC content most of the time.
Or just stuff in their games.
Right, or just stuff in their game. And this was the first to kind of like kick this off. So to find this DLC, you have to go down to the Darkroot Garden, and there's a lake down there with a giant Hydra, and you have to kill the Hydra so that it stops like trying to kill you. And then there's like a cave across the side of this lake, and there's a golem over there, and you have to go and like kill this golem, and then this woman falls out of the golem after it dies, and her name is Princess Dusk, and it turns out that she is the princess of the kingdom of Ulasil, which is a kingdom that you probably have heard of at that point. And so she asks you if you want to like learn her magic, and you say yes, and then from there you have to go all the way to the Duke's Archive, which is way the hell in a different part of the game. You may or may not have even gotten to that point yet. When you get to the Duke's Archive, there's a specific golem that you find there. It's like a golden golem. And you have to kill this golem. And I can't remember if it gives you an item or not. And then you have to go all the way back to Darkroot Garden. And then you go back to the cave. And when you go back to the cave, you'll find Princess Dusk's set there, her like clothes. And this like portal, this vortex, like in rip in space and time. And when you interact with it, this giant weird like fist comes out and grabs you and like pulls you in, and it basically takes you back in time to the kingdom of Ulasil, back when it still existed.
So basically the way that you had to get into this DLC was by searching the internet for how to get in.
More or less.
That was the only way.
It was really, really difficult to access. There's several parts of the DLC, new areas. There was the Sanctuary Garden, which is where you start, and you start immediately into a boss fight against the Sanctuary Guardian. Not too difficult of a boss fight. And then as you start making your way into the kingdom proper, you get to take on the man himself, Knight Artorias. Artorias is a badass. Like, absolutely. Earlier in the game, you fight Sif, who was Artorias'
we didn't talk about this?
sidekick.
I thought I wanted to mention that we can't talk about Sif. I can't. I'm going to turn into a big crybaby. I'm sorry. Please continue.
I got my nice Sif poster up there behind me. So you find out about Artorias. He's just like one of the 4 knights of Gwyn, and he like went to take on the Dark Wraiths and try to stop the Abyss. And the Abyss was attacking Ulasil, and so he went to try to stop it there, but he wasn't successful. And he ends up getting like corrupted, and you have to fight him, and his arm is broken. It's always like hanging at his side. But his character is based on the character of Guts from the Berserk anime and manga, and he acts just like it. I mean, he's just like coming at you with everything he's got, doing like these front flips and slamming this giant sword down and like whipping around in circles. Really, really challenging boss. One of the most challenging in Dark Souls, arguably. And if you can beat him, then you can continue into the DLC into Ulasil proper, make your way down, and eventually square off against the guy who grabbed you and pulled you in, who is Manus, who was this big, like, gorilla clicker head looking dude.
Cool.
And he's really cool, and he's really aggressive. He's definitely one of the toughest in the game. He's like shooting like this rain of dark magic onto you, which you can dispel if you find the silver pendant in the DLC, which is pretty cool. And and he's kind of like the last boss you have to beat to finish the DLC. But there's another really cool fight that you can get into in the DLC against a giant black dragon called Calamite. And originally you can't fight Calamite, you go down to where Calamite is, and he's flying around and he just roasts your ass with black flames. But if you can find this key to unlock this door, you can meet another one of the Knights of Gwyn, Hawkeye Go, who's this big giant. He's this big blind giant. He was an archer, and he killed most of the dragons in the Dark Souls lore. And he agrees that since you basically helped put an end to Artorias' plight, that he would help you. So somehow, I don't even understand, he's able to just like snipe Calamite out of the air with this giant freaking like arrow that's the size of a column and take him down so that you can like take him on. It's a really, really cool cutscene. And then
he is one of the Knights of Gwyn too, I believe. So.
Yes, he is. Yeah. Actually, so the 4 Knights of Gwyn, like one of them is Ornstein, who you fight, and then you never really get to meet the others. But actually, all 3 of the others are in this DLC.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's 3 of them. What is the other one? So it's Artorias.
The other one's like this assassin girl.
Right.
And she's like kneeling over the spot where you kill Artorias. Right. She wants you to give her like his sword or something like that. I can't remember, or his soul, I think. After you pick it up, you can give it to her or not. And if you don't give it to her, you can fight her and get her set and stuff too. So
I just remember you can cut off Calamite's tail.
Yeah, you
which
can.
Is always fun.
Gives you the obsidian greatsword, I think. Yeah.
Top 10 tail cut off Calamite.
Yeah, it's tough to do, but it's definitely doable. So anyway, it's about a 2 to 3 hour DLC total, depending on how good you are at Dark Souls and how well you play the game.
Took me longer than that. I spent probably that amount just trying to fight Artorias. He kicked the shit out of me.
Yeah, but there's a lot in here, and there's some really cool stuff related to Artorias that I know I've talked a lot about the DLC, but I won't necessarily spoil that. Yeah. So anyways, great DLC, the first of many great FromSoft DLCs.
They know how to do it. You got to mention there's a very charming talking mushroom named Elizabeth.
Yes, Elizabeth. Yeah.
It's just one of my favorite characters. It's just so funny.
It reminds me of like the teapot from Beauty and the Beast, sort of. She's like very proper. Hello, dear.
She delivers a lot of the lore of Ulasil, like kind of explaining like why you're there, and but yeah, it's really like set the stage for just how FromSoft like handles these types of DLCs, and we're on the cusp of getting probably their meatiest one yet for Elden Ring, and so like. There's just nobody who does it better. And I like the fact that they're like, I mean, you could arguably give the game to somebody. A lot of these games with DLCs, if it was already installed and they didn't know, they might just encounter it and just think this is part of the game. Like that's kind of the way that they work, So
I don't think anybody would accidentally encounter this one.
No, you can't. I mean, even getting down to that Hydra is kind of insane to get to, if I remember right. Down the lake. So.
One thing that I never really put together that was explained to me that I thought was really cool is that the Darkroot Garden is Ulasil. Oh, yeah. It's been so long that it's just become like overgrown and when you kill Manus, like Artorias fails, but he ends up getting the credit for being the savior, and his legend lives on. Like everybody knows that he like died, right? Mm-hmm. But they think that he like succeeded in his death. But it wasn't you. It wasn't him. It was you. Like you're the one that actually saved everybody. Damn it. And you don't get any of the credit he does. So kind of cool. One. Yeah. Anyway, that's Artorias of the Abyss. So we are going to move on to the bottom 5. Starting with number 5.
Number 5.
Iceborne from Monster Hunter World. You guys ready to do some hunting?
I'm excited about talking about this one.
Zach looks ready. Zach,
I am. Hunters to arms. Grab your insect glaives. I'll grab my hunting horn. Let's go. So Iceborne is the DLC that they added to Monster Hunter World, which was the most accessible Monster Hunter game they ever created. Got a lot of people into it, and when they brought Iceborne back in and added that in, it brought a ton of people, more people into it, because they were like, oh, I've kind of heard this time, let's get in and try this. And they made it really easy to get yourself to Iceborne. But Iceborne wasn't just a normal DLC. We had Matt earlier talking about a DLC that changed the entire landscape of a game. This did that. First off, also you can talk about his point of like a physical copy. There is physical copies you can get of Iceborne, which is awesome to have, and it's a great box art. But it added a larger region than was in the base game, so they added more. They added in more monsters. In the original Monster Hunter World, there was 36 monsters you could hunt. In Iceborne, there were 40 different monsters, none of which were the same as what you had in the original one. There were some like variants, like there's a different Pookie, and like there's a few variants in there, but
there are 43 new monsters of variants total added.
43, yeah, just an insane amount. Which with that comes the best part of any Monster Hunter game: new weapons, new armor. You get to customize yourself, make yourself look however you want, and get a new fun hunting horn to go play my tunes with and buff up Hunter and Stubbs when we're going out hunting.
Yeah,
just an amazing DLC to add in. They brought in, they brought in a new rank difficulty called Master Rank, which added even harder difficulties to it. Which actually, reading through some reviews of what people said, actually may have caused a few people to be a little upset with it because they felt that it was too hard. I saw a lot of reviews of people saying that the monsters were just a little too spongy. But I mean, we just got done talking about Dark Souls, so I guess I could just say, get good.
I thought they were a blast. All of them were so good.
And every monster is so different in that game, and to add in, as you said, 43 new ones or variants, and to bring in some of the older ones that I know were fan favorites for a lot of people, where it really breathed a ton of new life into the game. Also added a brand new hub area, which was just full of fun little things to find, and had a new cook in there, which if you played a Monster Hunter game, going and getting food from the Palicos is one of the best things to go do. It's just so much fun. Each of the new weapons that each of the weapons got new combos, so you got actually new ways to play, so you weren't playing exactly the same. They added in slinger tools, they had a grapple that they added in.
Clutch claw.
Flinch stuff.
Yeah,
clutch
I was going to
claw,
say, you almost forgot the most clutch part of the DLC.
It was the clutch call.
Caden was saying in the short essay he wrote in his nomination of this that the clutch call divided the Monster Hunter community. I think he called it like a bloody feud. And I did not realize that there were people who didn't like it. Like, what is not to like about freaking grappling up onto a giant monster and like weakening them? Like, I think that's so cool. But we're just dirty fifth leaders. That's a term I learned researching this, is that the people who came in from Monster Hunter Worlds are referred to as fifth leaders. They look down on us.
just noobs. I guess I could turn on you. I just had a couple more things to say, really, and it's just some fun quotes that I picked up from reviews off of Steam. First one goes, "Bigger monsters, some holder, some hotter, all slappers. I enjoy." And then we also had "Grandma Cat cooks good food for you," and then my personal favorite one, "Niceborne."
Niceborne. Yeah, this one really fits into a category, and we might have a couple of them in this. But there are some others on the list that didn't make it in the top 10. But it fits in the category of easily could have been its own game. Like, this could have been Monster Hunter World 2, and nobody would have been like, "That's not cool." Like, it's every bit like a size of like a main like Monster Hunter game in every way, and I think it almost made it into our snow and ice levels too, right? Because it's great snow and ice stuff in this game. Oh, so much.
I
good
feel like it got a little snubbed. Actually, I'm still amazed that it didn't make our ice levels because the snow was amazing.
Yeah. I did want to read this one little blurb from Caden's essay that I thought was really fun. I wish I could read it in like Caden's like business manager voice or whatever he does. You may also punch the shit out of a monster's head to steer it towards a convenient wall before releasing a shotgun blast of slinger ammo into its stupid face to cause it to charge in a panic at said wall, knocking itself the fuck out. Boom. It
almost sounded like his Professor Oak impression from.
I definitely butchered it, but I love that. Like reading it, you should definitely go read Caden's description of this.
Oh, he does such
DLC.
a good job with that stuff.
He does. He's a good writer.
Yeah.
The only thing I will mention that I think Zach left out that I loved, and maybe you didn't, I just didn't hear it, but they added the layered armor, which lets you make yourself look how you want to look. A little bit of fashion Monster Hunter going on, because you could like keep your build but look how you wanted to look, which is always fun in these kind of games, so I like the layered armor, like the clutch claw. What a great I mean, it feels weird calling it a DLC, but it's a massive,
it's a full ass game.
Yeah, I wanted to play
Caden wanted me to mention the hot springs as well. Don't skip the hot springs, specifically with the macaques. The red ass macaques is what he said.
Nice.
Oh yeah. So yeah, if you are into monster hunting, don't skip on Iceborne. With that, we will leave Monster Hunter World behind and move on to our number 4 pick.
Number 4.
That really necessary?
It came rushing back in a torrent. How we caroused at Olgierd's wedding.
At number 4, we have Hearts of Stone for The Witcher 3. Now, Hunter has been known to say, oh, you're going to have to cut me off when we talk about this. We're going to have to cut me off when we talk about that. You guys might have to cut me off talking about Hearts of Stone, because this is my personal favorite DLC content of any game ever. I absolutely love this. It's so good. It's almost 100% like story DLC. So it doesn't add a lot of... It's basically just one huge, long side quest. It's about 10 hours long to get through it. There's, I think, 5 like main like chunks to play through. But the story is just so good. It's like, in my opinion, the best like single standalone story in The Witcher 3, in that 180-hour game that you could play. It's just so awesome. So it starts off with Geralt kind of going and checking the board in like the center of one of the towns, and he's just looking for jobs, right? And this guy comes up and he like hammers a note onto the board saying that somebody is looking to slay a monster in Oxenford. And so Geralt picks it up and he's like, all right, I'm gonna go do my job. I'm gonna go kill this monster. So you go to meet the guy that's giving the job, the guy by the name of Olgierd von Everick. And he wants you to kill this giant frog monster that's haunting the sewers of Oxenford. Oxenford's one of the like bigger cities in The Witcher 3. And apparently he's like poisoning the water supply. So they need to take care of this frog monster. So Geralt goes to do the deed, and while he's there, he ends up meeting Shani, who is a character that they brought back from The Witcher 1. If anybody has played all 3 of those games, she was one of the main characters that Geralt kind of interacts with and kind of runs with in that game. She's a medic, and she's there to try to figure out what's going on and try to help the people of Oxenfurt who are being poisoned by the water. So Geralt ends up finding this giant frog monster, and you kill the frog, and something happens. The frog turns back into a man. Turns out the frog was cursed, and not just any man. He is an I'm trying to remember the name.
A prince.
I want to say an Ophir prince. So Ophir is one of the other countries in the world of The Witcher, and he's a prince of Ophir. And so as soon as you take out this frog, Geralt gets coated in this frog goo, gets poisoned basically, and falls unconscious. And when he wakes up, he's been taken prisoner on this boat because all the guys from Ophir came to try to decurse the prince and find that you just killed him. And so they take you prisoner, and they're going to basically take you back to Ophir and kill you for, murdering the prince of the country. And Geralt's in a real bad spot. It's at that point that a very unexpected character comes in to help Geralt out. I say unexpected because it's seemingly an innocuous NPC that you run into at the very beginning of The Witcher 3, 30 minutes in. He's the guy that teaches you Gwent.
Yeah.
When you first start the game, and that's it. That's the only time that you see him. He's right at the beginning of the game. You're like, all right, see you later. Okay. And then he just suddenly appears on this boat. He tells Geralt, well, if you help me out, I'll get you out of this mess. And Geralt's like, what choice do I have? You really don't. Okay. So you end up striking this deal with this guy, and oh my goodness, that was a bad idea, because this guy, whose name is Gaunter O'Dim, maybe possibly one of the most evil, wicked, sinister villains of anybody in any video game I've ever played.
Wow.
I always say that Kefka is my favorite video game villain, but Gaunter O'Dim, my god, he's basically literally is the devil.
Well, it's funny you just said my god, because the Gaunter O'Dim is G-O-D, and I don't think that's a mistake, because he's omnipresent, he's omniscient, in a lot of ways. He's a terrifying character. It's if it is the devil. It's if God was pure evil. That's what this guy is like. Yeah. So at this point, Geralt ends up escaping from the ship. The ship capsizes, and Geralt ends up getting away. But he's at the servitude of Gaunter O'Dim, and Gaunter O'Dim wants Geralt to go back to the guy that gave you the quest to kill the frog, Olgierd von Everick, and you have to perform 3 tasks for Olgierd to complete your contract. Because he is also at the service of Gaunter O'Dim. And so it basically sends Geralt on these really cool, unique quests to try to help out Olgierd von Everick to serve the devil so that you can regain your soul. Yeah. And it's crazy. I mean, you end up doing some weird stuff. My favorite is Olgierd's brother Vladimir is dead, and it's supposed to be an impossible task. You're supposed to show him the time of his life. So you basically summon Vladimir's ghost, and you make a deal with him that he can basically inhabit your body and go to a party, and Geralt basically just becomes this womanizing, slaughtering party animal, which is completely anti-Geralt. He's you don't see that in this character at all, and he just starts hey baby, how you doing? All the women and getting drunk and dancing around, making an ass of himself. You can actually get ass ears to wear around at the party. It's super fun. And there's some other really cool stuff. There's a heist mission and some other stuff there too. And then just taking on Gaunter at the end, you can take him on or not. You can. Yeah, I was gonna ask you which decision you made on that.
I took him on.
I didn't.
Really?
I just wanted to see what would happen. Yeah. I've gone back and watched videos of what the other choices, obviously, but he basically just sucks the soul right out of Olgierd.
Yeah, he's just it comes this shriveled corpse.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah, but But the reason they call it Hearts of Stone is like Olgierd von Everec, he gained immortality and he gained all these riches that his family lost to these like competitive families. But Ganonfloor Dim basically like steals all the emotion from him. So he basically just becomes this like uncaring, person with a heart, literally with a heart of stone.
He made a deal with the devil is basically what.
And it's basically ruined his life. He lost his love. He lost everything that was important to him. And you have to make a choice on whether to try to help him out at the end or not. And I don't know. It's a very like emotionally gripping story.
It's so
when you
good.
Find out all the details.
It's hard. I remember playing through it and feeling like I'm not sure who the villain is here at first. It's like really not that clear. And unlike with Iceborne, this is like the perfect example of how sometimes less can be more, because this is like there's no way we could ever do it justice, the story that is in this DLC and how well it's written. Video games as a medium, I think sometimes really misses on story a lot, because they have to put things in there that are like video gamey, and to make it fun to play. But this one is like a perfect example of having both the best of both worlds, where I gotta tell you, I thought that the Toad Prince boss fight was maybe my favorite in the entire Witcher series.
It's pretty cool.
It's amazing. It's so cool looking. It's actually challenging and was a lot
cool
of fun.
monster design for sure.
But you get this
he's got like this like 3-piece mouth that opens up, like, and he can like grab you with his tongue or like spit this acid at you, and yeah, it's pretty wicked.
There's this one scene that always stuck with me after playing that too, just to show you like what an absolutely terrifying villain Ganonfloor Dim was. There's like a scene.
Is it the spoon thing?
God, yeah, he's like in a bar and this drunk dude just keeps interrupting him, and it's like it's bothering him. So he just out of nowhere freezes time. So it's just you and Geralt. I mean, it's just Geralt and Ganonfloor Dim like talking in this tavern. And he walks over with just a wooden spoon. The guy's frozen and just goes and sticks it right into his eye.
Inserts it right into his eye. He's still frozen.
And then he just like, boop,
and then he unfreezes time, and the guy just drops dead.
It's like,
oh my gosh,
that's just so creepy. I mean, it's such a creepy story too. It's a lot of like very kind of like almost horror elements in it at times. It was awesome. My personal favorite of the two big Witcher 3 DLCs. I like them both for different reasons, but this one really, really had an impact on me because the story really was that gripping that I couldn't put. I played this one, I think, almost the entire 10 hours straight through when I did it because I couldn't put it down.
Yeah, it's super gripping and super engaging. It's got some other really cool stuff that I didn't mention. There's a painted world that you go into, which is really, really cool. It changes the aesthetic is just really awesome. There's a really cool boss fight against this like
the caretaker.
The caretaker. He's just this faceless like.
I knew you were gonna talk about that. Yeah.
Like lumbering guy with this like cool like shovel that he tries to kill you with, and
he almost looks like that guy in Pan's
the souls
Labyrinth,
of all the people.
Puts his like eyeballs up on his hands, but like without the eyeballs.
Yeah, he does remind me of that for sure. Yeah, that's cool too. You get these like. This dog and this cat, they're like familiars. They like help walk you through the painted world and stuff. Neat stuff. Anyway, so we're gonna leave it at that. Hearts of Stone is amazing. If you are interested in The Witcher 3 at all and you haven't played it, you owe it to yourself to go play it. It's so good.
Those Witcher 3, like that goes on sale sometimes for like $10, and it comes with both expansions. That's like 180 hours of pure video game bliss for $10. Like, keep an eye out for sales for that because you see them all the time.
It's so good. All right, so we're gonna leave The Witcher 3 behind and talk about The Witcher 3 because at number 3.
Number 3.
Again? I thought I was clear. I will not talk to you if little Red Riding Hood is not with you.
Not a problem. Sienna can take her place.
What? Very well. It's not as if I can forbid you. Grandote, come closer, sweetie.
We have Blood and Wine.
That's going to be hard to edit the television thing in. You put that. I think it's not going to surprise anybody.
Sorry about that.
No worries. It's fine. It's funny. Worth it.
Anyway, arguably what most people consider the superior DLC. It is very, very good.
Very good.
Like Hearts of Stone. This one, sort of similar to Iceborne, adds a whole new region to the game.
Yeah.
Hearts of Stone did not add any new areas. It took place 100% in the base game of The Witcher 3. This adds a whole new region about the size of Velen, which is one of the three main areas of the game. It's enormous. Except instead of being this like ugly, boggish, war-torn area, you're taken to the land of wine and love, as they say.
Pretty.
Yeah, it's based on kind of like Tuscany and like southern France, like the Provence region of France. It's all these rolling hills with all these vineyards, and the sky is blue, and there's big oak trees everywhere. It's gorgeous. It's an absolutely gorgeous area, and it's very striking because it's very different from a lot of the scenery that you get in the base game. It's like so much more upbeat. The main reason is that Jusant, the area that you're in, is a autonomous duchy of Nilfgaard, and Nilfgaard is the kind of major force that's like bringing war on the regions that you're playing through in The Witcher 3. They're kind of like the Roman Empire, and they're trying to conquer everything. And this place is already allied with them, so they don't really have a need to be there and like tear crap up. So when you're roaming through this area, it's very beautiful. It's very picturesque. It's very nice. And starts similarly to the other DLC. Geralt's just like going to the job board, and he ends up meeting up with these two knights who have come seeking him out, bring him back to Jusant. He's been to Jusant before. He knows the Duchess there, whose name is Anna Henrietta, I think. And there's been a number of murders by some sort of beast killing the knights there, and they need Geralt to come and kind of like take care of it. So he agrees to go and end up going back to Jusant. And this is centered a lot around vampires. That's the Blood and Wine. You do a lot of vampire fights, and there's a lot of vampires hanging around in this DLC. But it adds a lot more than I would say the regular, or than not the regular, but than Hearts of Stone does, because it adds about 30 hours to run through the whole thing. There's like 90 new quests in this thing. There's a lot of quests. It gives you access to Grandmaster armor. Armor dies, so you can change the way that the armors look. New weapons. It adds mutations as well, so it really like allows you to change some of your abilities. For instance, you can upgrade your Ard spell so that it can freeze enemies, and then you can like hit them and they just shatter and break into a million pieces, which is really cool. Caden told me that he wanted me to mention that as well. So there you go, Caden. And it adds some really cool characters from the Witcher lore. So it adds the character of Regis, who's one of Geralt's oldest friends. He is a character that is very, very heavily centered in the books, but he doesn't actually make an appearance until this DLC. And he's a really cool character. He's a high vampire, so he's got all sorts of cool powers, and he knows a lot about vampires, and he helps Geralt out through his quest to figure out who the Beast of Beauclair is that's killing these knights. It adds some really kooky, weird side quests. Everybody likes to reference the one with Roach, Geralt's horse. Because Geralt basically has this like hallucination where he and Roach have this conversation, and it's very funny. There's a quest in there where Geralt just has to go pick some gold up from a bank, and he ends up getting like stuck in this bank because of all the red tape in the bank.
Yeah.
And you just get this run around. You have to go upstairs and talk to this person. Nope. Got to go downstairs and talk to that person. Wait in here for a couple. And he just gets pissed off because of all this stupid red tape legislative crap that he's dealing with. It's really good. There's a couple where you have to lift some curses that are really memorable, where you have to go through like knights tournaments, and the whole kingdom is like fairy tale-esque. You fight like these giants roaming the land. You actually go into a fairy tale book.
Yeah, that's my favorite part.
And there's like all sorts of like witches like with candy houses trying to like lure children in, and the big bad wolves trying to eat the three little pigs, and it's Jack and the Beanstalk stuff going on.
Hilarious.
It's really, really good.
There's like a Rapunzel tower in there and like a big rainbow, and it's just so charming, and like I forget her name, you mentioned her, but she dresses up like Little Red Riding Hood, and the big bad wolf is like making her like pretend to be Little Red Riding Hood so she could be like, oh, like what big teeth you have. And you're like a werewolf, like a Witcher werewolf. It's so fun.
Yeah, it's a really good DLC also.
And then you get to bang her too at the end of that.
You can. You have the option. Not Anna Henrietta, the Duchess of Toussaint. That's Hunter's talking about Sienna or Rena, also known as Renawed.
Yeah,
who's a different character.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
She plays heavily into the story though. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so anybody have any additional comments about Blood and Wine? We need to make sure that we give Hunter adequate time to talk about the next number in the countdown.
I would say like this is another one that fits into like it's almost gonna be its own game, and I was thinking a lot about how this DLC was just way more lighthearted after playing Hearts of Stone, and I'm a big like taking a knee guy, as Michael Huber would put it, where I just like to kind of stroll around and take it all in, and there's maybe no better part of a game or DLC than Toussaint to just stroll about and take in the scenery. I mean, it is stunning with these like snow peaks in the background, like you said, like rolling hills, like these big giant like fairy tale castles. Like the only thing I could think that like would have improved this DLC really is like if you bumped into Shrek out there somewhere and you had like a Shrek quest, but otherwise it's pretty damn perfect. It doesn't have the same level of like storytelling as Hearts of Stone does, but I don't think they were really going for that. It added a whole bunch of new enemies.
No,
it was fun to fight.
This was more like gameplay related, and
like
just trying to like really blow it up of what already makes Witcher 3 great. One thing I did forget to mention is Geralt gets his own chateau also, and so you get to kind of like build out this like estate. And at the end of the DLC, you kind of like have some characters come visit you at the estate, and it's like a really, really good like wrap up to The Witcher 3 if it's the last thing that you play in the game. The way that it wraps up, it was perfect for me because I played this last. I'd already beaten the main game. I'd already beaten Hearts of Stone, and just the ending just really cemented the end of this like epic journey. It was awesome.
Really good.
Yeah.
All right. Any more Witcher DLCs to go?
just like 3 more. No, that's the end of our Witcher discussion on this podcast, at least during the countdown. So we're going to move on from Blood and Wine to our number 2 pick.
Number 2.
At number 2, we have the Old Hunters DLC from Bloodborne. And I'll just say, Hunter, take it away.
Yeah, no surprise to people who know me, Bloodborne is my all-time favorite video game, and probably the only thing I love more than Bloodborne is the Old Hunters DLC for Bloodborne. I mean, one of the things I love about Bloodborne is that it's super duper hard, like in a really like fair way. Bloodborne is punishing and it's fast and I love it and it's so hard. And then the old hunters came out and like looked at Bloodborne and was like, hold my beer, like it's not as bad as the Artorias of the Abyss DLC in terms of locating it, but there's kind of a bit of a convoluted way that you have to access it. You have to make sure you have the right, thing, and then you have to go to the right place, and then like a big invisible amygdala like picks you up, and normally it would kill you, but this time it takes you to the Hunter's Nightmare, which is like this. One of the things descriptions I always liked about it, it's the Cathedral Ward, but like as if it were a nightmare. And somebody once described it as, if you were ever like having a dream about a place and your brain can't quite fill in all of like what's there, like all of the structures and everything else, it kind of just might fill it in with other things. And that's kind of what the Cathedral Ward looks like in the Nightmare. It looks like almost incomplete in a way, and it's just nightmarish. It's got this great, awesome, kind of new looking, I guess it's a moon. It kind of looks, it's bright as the sun.
It looks wicked.
It's so cool looking. I love it. And one of my favorite things is the first time, I would give anything to be able to erase my memory and go back and do this again. Like the first time you walk out in there, like the first enemy you come across is this hunter, and he's got like a massive, like blunt sword club thing that then he just like turns into like a 20-foot chain whip, and it's just, and I mean, I can't speak for people who are better at these games than I probably am, but he beat the crap out of me. Yes. And I was like, holy moly, that is one way to start DLC is like, we're just gonna make you fight this like crazy hard hunter. And like having played the Bloodborne base game, like when you run into hunters, like those were always really challenging fights. So eventually you overcome that fight, run up the hill, and realize that's just a regular freaking enemy. They're everywhere. That's just, you're like, for the masochists like me out there, you're like, oh my god, this is gonna be awesome. I'm gonna get destroyed. And so, I'm gonna refrain from really diving into lore, because that would take hours to really get into the lore of it. Suffice it to say that the DLC like contains a massive chunk of lore, and it really fills in a lot of the lore that was kind of like missing from the base game that people like had questions about. So when this came out, it was like, oh, that's what's kind of happening here. I'm going to try and go over some of the other things that I think made this DLC so amazing and deserving of the #1 spot, but people don't know how to vote. So, first of all,
they just couldn't find it, Hunter.
It's okay. I know. It's the one that's it's. I like that it's on this list at all. I just want to talk about it. The first thing I want to talk about is the bosses. I think if you looked at most lists, and I know it is for me, there are at least 3 of the absolute best bosses in the game in this DLC. I would rank them 1, 2, and 3 in terms of, #1 being Ludwig, #2 being Lady Maria, and #3 being Orphan of Kos. Those are my top 3, all in this DLC. I mean, Ludwig is one of the most unbelievably cool boss fights you will ever come across.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
hard. The arena is just crazy. Like, it's graphic and gory, and I mean, it's something you just have to experience. And Lady Maria is probably one of the coolest characters in any game. Such a good backstory. She basically like kills herself. She's like find her dead up there, and then you fight her like up in the clock tower. That clock tower is just a beautiful arena for a boss fight. And then obviously the Orphan of Kos is, a lot of people consider one of the hardest boss fights in all of any of the Soulsborne's games. And it's just such a crazy fight out on the beach, and this thing's like throwing its like, Great One mom's placenta around at you, like it's like, what the hell is going on? But they're the bosses, even the other ones I didn't mention, Lawrence, the other ones. They're all so good. And the second thing I'd say is the weapons. Bloodborne. What I think really separates Bloodborne from the other Souls games in general is I think that having fewer weapons that were just cooler, like trick weapons, really went a long way to make those weapons, more memorable and more fun to play with and building around. And just like with the bosses, like I think if you had people rank them, there's probably at least 3 or 4 I would say 4 of my top 5 favorite weapons probably come from the DLC. I mean,
certainly mine.
Yeah. So you want to go ahead, Wes? I know you want to say it. Come on. What's your favorite weapon?
Whirligigs up, baby. Yeah. Nothing like using a giant buzzsaw to grind some dude up.
The pizza cutter. The whirligig saw is freaking amazing, and it's got like that one trick move you can do where you just basically are just constantly spinning the thing and just turning it around, just like running it like it's you like cut down trees with the thing.
Running a weed whacker. Stay out of my way.
Mine was Rakio, but that was just because of how long it took for me to beat Lady Rikuyo. Yeah. How long it took me to beat Lady Maria, and then I was on a like a dexterity build, so I was already set up perfectly to use it. And
the Rikuyo you get from those 2 like shark whale crazy things around the whale that are probably harder than even some of the bosses are down there. So
most of the bosses,
it's a really rewarding thing to actually get, and definitely in my top 5. I would put the Holy Moonlight Sword in there too, just because it's so cool to get from Ludwig. And then probably the Beast Cutter. The Beast Cutter is just too cool. Like that's the one the first hunter has, is that big giant chain whip thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch in there. There's
Boom Hammer,
the Boom Hammer, the Bow Blade. You can get an Amygdala arm, which is just a bizarre weapon.
Oh yeah,
it's just like an arm of an Amygdala, which you get by fighting like a blood-starved beast that again is just one of the regular enemies down there, not a boss.
You can't not talk about the Gatling gun as well. You get that one down there. Like there's a ton of guns. The church cannon. You get a fist. You can just get the sidearm that's literally just a fist, the fist of Grantia.
Yeah. Right. There's so much. And it's really a perfectly, I feel like a perfectly paced design DLC that's punishing but so rewarding. And it all kind of like culminates in a huge part of the lore ending up in this fishing hamlet, which is kind of, it's referenced in the main game. Like people didn't know what some of these words were. They didn't know what the word Kaz was. There's like some references to Rom, like they're talking about the orphan and Kaz and these things and this fishing hamlet, and nobody ever knew what that meant. And all of a sudden it was like here. And the fishing hamlet is just such an amazing, unique, like nothing else in Bloodborne area, with like all new enemies and a new setting. And I just love it so much. I love that. Yeah. I love that area and that last boss fight. And it feels like, in a lot of ways, when the DLC came out, it really felt like that was beating the game. Honestly, like you go back afterwards.
Yeah.
And you like finish up and you're just like, honestly,
it's almost like disappointing by comparison.
Like, it feels like a breeze, you're just like, oh yeah, I got to go back and, fight these other bosses and stuff. And you just like work your way through them like it's nothing. And you're like, you find yourself like just yearning to like go back into the Hunter's Nightmare and like take on some of those fights again and see those areas.
Yeah. It's so visually distinct as well. Yeah. Like, so you just, the first time you come on the River of Blood, and there's just this gigantic river running through everything. And
all those damn mosquitoes.
Yeah,
oh my gosh. Remember on Bloodborne when we first kind of got in there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, oh god, I was so creeped out by those, like, bloodsuckers. Like, it's just so damn good. Like, total, like what Wes said, like breath of fresh air. When you walk in there, it really feels like loved visually, and like, just the way everything's set up. Super awesome.
And the clock tower, and we talked about the fishing hamlet already. It's just like super unique areas that look like nothing else in the rest of the game. Just awesome.
Yeah. Super. I mean, I'm going to cut myself off, but Like it's exactly why I get so excited for Shadow of Erdtree, because they don't treat this like any kind of like cash grab ever. Like, you know what you're getting is going to be. It's almost like they set aside like a lot of the best stuff and go like, we're gonna put this into like just like an extra expansion into this that's gonna make it even better. Like, I can't even imagine Bloodborne without the old hunters now. Like, it feels like it would just be missing like an entire like appendage.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the same. It's integral.
Yeah,
integral.
So it's interesting. Just real quick, the last thing, I guess, with getting into the old hunters, you have to get grabbed by an old one to get in. Just because we've been through the Artorias of the Abyss having a weird way to get in, and Old Hunters has a weird way to get in the DLC. You got any guesses for Shadow of the Erdtree?
No.
Yeah,
I think it will probably have something to do with what's his face, Moog. Yeah, Moog. Like, because they showed. I think that they were showing that to just kind of like help people like know where you had to go, because that seemed pretty obvious that they were saying like that you're gonna have to do something with that in order to get into it. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure
it'll be weird and convoluted.
Did you see that a bunch of people have designated the day before that DLC drops, I think on the 20th of June, as Kill Moog Day?
That's fun. Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
Everybody's gonna like jump back in and
that's such a good idea. I'm gonna have to do that too.
Get ready for Shadow of the Erdtree. Anyway, Old Hunters is 10 out of 10 content.
So good.
Absolutely.
Music.
All right, moving on to our number one pick.
Number 1.
You just follow the instructions, I think. Should I do it? No, you know what? You do it.
And off we go.
Ooh, themes. What are you gonna pick?
Maybe love.
You trying to woo me?
In your dreams. Love it is. Oh, okay, smile. As an angel. Okay, something creepy. Dinosaur! Oh no!
At number one, we have Left Behind from The Last of Us. I think this is another 10 out of 10 DLC personally, but I'm going to let Brad lead in on this.
All right. So, right off the bat, I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet because I know each and every one of us have at least something to say about Left Behind. Just a quick facts. Left Behind is the DLC released for The Last of Us on Valentine's Day of 2014, about eight months or so after the original release of the game. Let's be immediately clear. The Last of Us is essentially a perfect video game in my book, despite some of the ambiguity at the end of the game. Like, it's pretty self-contained. It didn't necessarily need side story or even a sequel, in my opinion, but, Naughty Dog delivers big time with this one. So as the DLC starts, Joel has sustained a potentially mortal wound after falling and getting impaled by a piece of rebar, and Ellie is tasked with saving his life. So throughout her efforts to save Joel, we get these flashbacks back and forth to an evening, through like Ellie's memories of an evening of the past, and through this mission, we gain a deeper perspective into who Ellie is. These flashbacks are to an evening Ellie spent with her best friend Riley back in Boston, who's off to join the Fireflies in the morning, and, convinces Ellie to sneak out and have kind of one last night of teenage fun before she goes. The storytelling is really neat here, kind of as you follow Riley through the mall. Like, she clearly has like something up her sleeve, and we don't have like any kind of, we're kind of on this ride. Like, we follow her wondering, what she has in store for us. So that kind of adds like to some of it there. They stop along their way through the abandoned mall to kind of play with masks in the Halloween store and have water gun fights and hurl bricks through windows the whole time. Like, you're just like, you're in just as much suspense as Ellie is wondering like kind of what Riley has planned. You know, along the way, like to the big surprise, I was reminded like of how I might have felt as a teenager, you know, like out at night without permission, like with your friends, like the excitement, the sense of danger, you know, like the mischief, the vandalism, the stupid in-jokes you and your like, you know, idiot buddies had, like it's all there. And it all kind of ends in like Riley's big surprise, like of a fully lit up and functional like indoor play area with a carousel in the middle, you know, where they get some time to kind of run around and have some carefree fun. I think before obviously both of their lives change like quite a bit. They ride the carousel and they play arcade games. They hit the photo booth and they dance on the glass countertops, you know, on the prize area and just be teenage girls, like before the moment that the two of them are faced with the question, you know, whether they're just friends or perhaps something more. You know, Ellie and Riley share a kiss in a moment before being attacked by infected. You know, Ellie and Riley are both kind of bit in the chase out of the mall and end up spending the rest of the night kind of planning what's next. They contemplate suicide, you know, but Riley doesn't like that idea. In fact, I love what she says here. I'm going to quote her. She says, there are a million ways we could have died before today, and a million ways we can die before tomorrow. But we fight for every second we get to spend with each other. Whether it's 2 minutes or 2 days, we don't give that up. And, you know, with that, Riley kind of becomes somewhat responsible for the lion that Ellie becomes, you know. It's obvious, like, Ellie lives on, you know, kind of has to move on from losing her best friend after that. So yeah, really good, you know, bit of trivia here. This DLC was the subject of episode 7 of the Last of Us HBO series, which is another, like, one of the best episodes of that series.
Amazing.
Yeah, so great. Anyway, like, you know, not to go on and on, all of this in like a snappy 2 to 3 hours, like tops, like it's this tight little DLC that has to be like one of the best ever made. And it like absolutely has earned its spot at the top of the heap, like, you know, in my opinion. Go ahead. What do people have to say about this one?
It's a freaking gut punch, man.
It's
like
wow. Powerful stuff.
Yeah, just like seeing what they mean to each other, like, and just the moment that Riley tells Ellie that she's leaving, like they want me to leave, they want me to go with them, and Ellie's like, okay. And he's like, what do you mean, okay? That's all you have to say? He's like, well, what do you want me to say? Like, you're the most meaningful person in my life, and you're telling me that you're just gonna leave me? Yeah. You're just going? What do you want from me? You know? And she's like, I want you to tell me. I want some advice. I want you to tell me what you think.
Right. I think we've all had maybe a moment like that where like we're begging for someone to just like, you know, throw themselves on the floor.
He really wants her just to tell her to stay. And initially she tells her, I think you should go. And then she comes and she reneges on that. And she's like, no, I want you to stay. And she was planning on staying until they ended up getting attacked. And it's just like, oh, so just harsh. Just so harsh.
Yeah.
And that's what The Last of Us is.
The Last of Us is, on its own, such a good game and just amazing story. The first one especially, although I really like the second one's story as well. But this is the best. This is the best writing they did for the entire series for both of them. The way that they tell this story as basically being this, you know, part of it you're going through this like playfulness and this youthfulness, and it's completely juxtaposed against like just the bitter, grieving, hardened person that Ellie has become, you know, in like a very harsh environment. And I think that those two things serve each other so well. And it's a love story. I mean, the whole story of The Last of Us is a love story. You know, I mean, the reason why Joel can't let Ellie die in the end is because he loves her like a daughter. Right. And this is a love story about, you know, first love, basically. And I don't think that there's ever been two characters I felt loved each other like in that way, in like that youthful kind of love. And you really get to know like how it is that Ellie came about, the personality that she had in the entire game that you played. And it's both fun but touching and heartbreaking. And I really think I get a lot of The Last of Us, by the way, if you don't know, was inspired by the movie Children of Men. Sharkman has talked about that before, and I think this like really kind of shows that as well. Like, you know, Ellie basically is like the holy grail representative of hope, but she's also just this kid. And you know, imagine being in a scenario where your friend is the one that dies next to you, the person that you love dies next to you, and you don't, and like having to carry that around with you the rest of your life is just being like, why me? Like, why am I the one who's chosen to carry this? You know, I have to make this count because I should be dead, right? And so it enhances the entire main game in such a meaningful way.
Yeah.
And that water gun fight, dude, is so fun.
The whole thing's a blast, kind of cruising through.
There's a lot of really good set piece moments in this game. I really enjoyed like just walking around in the Halloween shop as well.
Yeah,
just like
the masks are amazing.
Like Naughty Dog just does environments so amazingly well, and just walking around in there, just looking at all the little details in this like Halloween store was so cool. And the arcade thing too was, because you don't actually get to play the arcade game. The arcade game is busted, but they do such a good job of Riley tells Ellie, okay, close your eyes, we're gonna play the game, and it just zooms in on Ellie's face, and you can see all over her facial features, and she's narrating through you fighting, and you have to do these button inputs as she's narrating through the game and doing a fight of the turning, I think is the name of the game. And it's so cool because it just draws you in so much that you actually feel like you are playing a fighting game. You're doing these fighting inputs as you're playing through. It's super well done.
It's just amazing. And the combat was not the point of this DLC, but there was still some good like combat sections in there. There was still some good like kind of creepy, you know, moments that had that kind of gameplay feel to them as well. That, you know, they didn't make it just like watching an interactive story. Like you were still playing The Last of Us.
They did a really good job with the I mean, you're just saying it's not much combat, but I just want to point out one fun thing they did was to really make it feel like they were kids and they didn't have any real way to fight. So your actual way of really doing combat in the entire DLC was to distract Walker or distract the infected to go fight the cannibals that were coming to eat you and cause them all to fight, which was a really unique thing that they had apparently planned to put in the original game and weren't able to. So it was an addition to that because they wanted to still use what they had worked on for it.
Yeah, I really appreciated how they allowed you to weaponize the infected to your advantage to take on these guys. And you did get weapons. You had a pistol, you had a bow and arrow. So you could fight yourself, but it was so much more effective to, you know, throw a brick over where these guys were at and all of a sudden have two clickers run in and just maul these dudes and take them out.
Yeah. One other thing I do want to add that I think is really cool with this one, because I think most people think of the time spent with Riley as being kind of the more memorable of like going through both sections, but I'm like drawn back to like a part in the main game when Ellie is talking to Sam, you know, like who's and they're talking about what they're afraid of, and Ellie she says what she's most afraid of is like finding herself completely alone. Right. You know, which is a really terrifying thought when you're the only person who's immune to all this stuff. Like, you know, like there's an actual somewhat decent possibility that could happen. And it really explains like why she's going and working so hard to try and find something to heal Joel, who is the person that she, you know, loves and is with her now. And it's just, God, it's such good writing. It's such good writing. If anything was going to beat the old Hunters, I'm okay with this one beating it. It's really, really fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty top of class for sure. Are you guys okay if we wrap the top 10 there?
I mean, we could get all poetic and shit and lose our minds together, but yeah, I think we're good.
It's so
All
good.
right.
I think we're good.
All right, so I'm going to recap this sucker for us real quick. Number 10, Specter of Torment from Shovel Knight. Number 9, Brood War from StarCraft. Number 8, the Citadel DLC from Mass Effect 3. Number 7, Undead Nightmare from Red Dead Redemption. Number 6, Artorias of the Abyss from Dark Souls. Number 5, Iceborne from Monster Hunter World. Number 4, Hearts of Stone from The Witcher 3. It's the best. Number 3, Blood and Wine from The Witcher 3. Also great. Number 2, The Old Hunters from Bloodborne. Also the best. And number 1, Left Behind from The Last of Us. Fantastic list.
Yeah,
amazing
list.
as always.
Thank you.
This was a really good one.
Came through this month. Yeah,
we had a lot of people come in and contribute to it as well, and that I think really makes these things like that much better. And like, I'm a stats guy again, so I like it. It just makes it valid. Makes it more valid. That we have more people with their opinions in there. Again, like there were some blind spots for us on this list, but that's okay. You know, we do our best to represent them. But when people come in and like start actually voting and nominating these things, this list, I was actually going to look at like a few other top 10 DLC lists, and ours that our community culminated is way better. Like it's way better than the others. I'm sorry, I'm just going to toot our own horns because like I was telling Wes, I looked at the Watch Mojo one and it didn't have either the Witcher DLCs. It didn't have the Old Hunters, and people in the comments were like, "What the hell is this list?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's because you don't have a community of just amazing people helping curate your list for you." So, you know, get on that Watch Mojo.
We're super lucky with that. All right, anybody have any honorable mentions real quick? That doesn't mean go into any details. Just anything you want to shout out.
This was Final Fantasy VII coming out. Intermission. Gotta throw it there.
Right out of my head there. Yuffie's awesome.
Yes, the other one that was really, really close on the outside looking in was Hitman 3 Freelancer, which is just like a really fun like DLC that just lets you basically have it's almost like a what's the word? Like
it's a roguelike mode.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a roguelike mode, but it's like everything is just kind of generated and random, and so it puts you against like random NPCs as your target. It completely makes every time you do it like its own unique, like fresh Hitman experience. It feels like actual like Hitman stuff, you know, like you're dropped in a random place, you get random gear. It's cool, very cool one.
Yeah. A lot of high praise on that one for sure. Yeah. All right, so now is the time that we mention what we're going to be counting down next month. And I'm proud to say this is going to be a really fun one for most people, I think, because everybody's going to have an opinion on this. Next month, we are going to be talking about the top 10 arcade games. So we are not narrowing this down at all. This is any and all arcade games. So we'll be opening things up. Everybody, please come and nominate your favorite arcade games. Remember, it's so much more fun when you give us a little spiel about why you like the game. And you know, Hunter did a really great job of reading some of those comments on the show this time. We could read your comment on the show.
I think we should try and
these
do
arcade
that.
Games.
I wanted to make a point of doing that more because people really have been taking their time out to write a whole bunch of stuff, and they've got better, you know, knowledge on these things that they love and have played than I do for sure. So, you know, why not borrow from their experience and bring it in here? So if you write little things, I'm going to try and make sure I get through those and try and incorporate some of them in. And I'm excited.
Makes sense to me.
And arcade games, just to clarify too, like it doesn't matter if it had like a console release or like I mean, Street Fighter 2 obviously qualifies as an arcade game.
Yeah,
that better be number one. Sorry,
I don't know.
Brad's calling his shot now.
Time Crisis 2 is going to be in there, right? That's probably won't be in there.
You
That's
can't forget Gauntlet.
Right.
I think Time Crisis will make it. That's so iconic.
Yeah,
we'll see. There's a lot of good arcade games. I feel like this list is going to be pretty meaty, which means that we need more people to rank them so that we can actually get like a good data set. So
that's right. If you're enjoying the podcast, come join the GGD Discord. We'll have the link for that in the YouTube description. You can jump in and participate, nominate your favorite arcade games, help us vote for your favorite arcade games, and add and contribute to the list, because that's what makes this fun. This is a community-driven show. So anyways, something to look forward to, arcade games. With that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will discuss our Indies Nuts Game of the Month. All right, welcome back. Before we jump into Indies Nuts, I'd just like to give a quick shout out to our patrons. The Great Game Debate has a Patreon, and if you're interested in supporting us like these folks do, you can check us out on Patreon. Just look for The Great Game Debate. So just like to give a quick shout out to Pucho, Dakota Falk, Dan Gieslin, aka Aviator Gamer, and we have a brand new patron, Aunt Jay. So thank you, Aunt Jay, for joining the Patreon. We really appreciate all of our patrons. All the money that we get from the Patreon goes back to the community. We just did a really nice community giveaway where we gave away a gift card to the platform of anybody's choice, $20 gift card. And we try to do nice stuff like that for the community as we can, as we build the funds. So if you'd like to support us there, please do so. If you've enjoyed listening to the show so far, please hit that like button and consider subscribing as well. We want to get into as many people's earphones, on people's computers, watching this show as we can. And so it helps us out a lot if you could like and subscribe, and share us with your friends if you like the content. That would be really, really appreciated. And I mentioned it before, but consider joining the Discord as well. We have a lot of fun over there. We kind of like put together the bones of every episode every month over there on the Discord with the community. And that's how we do what we do. And we love our community. We love interacting with them, and we love chatting with them about video games and other fun stuff. So
and playing Helldivers.
And playing Helldivers.
Come play Helldivers with us.
Awful lot of hell diving going on over there.
No shortage
Anyway.
of Helldivers if you're into it.
So with that, I think it's time to dive into Indies Nuts.
Yeah.
This month, the game we'll be discussing is Jusant, developed by Don't Nod Entertainment. This was released last year for PlayStation 5, PC, and Xbox. And this was Hunter's choice to play for this month. So, Hunter, would you like to kick off the discussion on Jusant?
Sure. You want me to do that? Here, maybe I should get just the good things out of the way first. It's very pretty. It's a very pretty
Hopefully it's
game.
a long list.
Yeah.
No, it's 2. No, 3. I'll add a third one. So it's very pretty. I thought the music was quite nice most of the way through. I enjoyed listening to the music a lot. And I really liked that there was at least one person who played it that really, really liked it, enjoyed it, which is honestly a big part, I think, of the point of these Indies Nuts things. Indie games are not always going to be for everybody. I'm personally not a huge indie gamer most of the time. I've played some of these that I've really, really enjoyed, and it's opened me up to a whole bunch of other games. But I'm just going to say, this just was not one for me. Like, it just wasn't like, the first thing, and I've done this in a bunch of games, and I tend to do this in a lot of games I play, even when I'm not going to talk about them with other people. I like to know what the stakes are. Like, I like to know if I can die, especially in a game. And the first thing I noticed in this one was it wouldn't let me jump off the cliff, and which was like a big old red flag. And then I was like, well, maybe it's just this section, maybe when you're getting up higher and stuff like that. No, this game is a game about climbing a mountain, and you can't fall. And I was just like, how is that a decision that was made that you like think about mountain climbing as an activity. Mountain climbing is supposed to like trigger like feelings of like overcoming fears and nervousness. And the only feelings I had about climbing a mountain in Jusant was that I might be occasionally very briefly annoyed if I like fall a little tiny bit. They give you They're little pitons that you get plenty of them. I barely ever used them, and
it really tries to encourage you to use them. It keeps telling you over and over.
Yeah, you get a lot of and I just didn't like the fact that at that point it just kind of became all right, well, now we're just gonna be doing this mechanic, which the climbing of it was a little unique, and I didn't really think it was bad per se. Like I actually kind of liked it at first, like using L2 and R2 to kind of grab a hold of things, but by the end I think I had pushed the L2 and R2 buttons more in this game than I have in Gran Turismo 7, which is just all braking and gas. And I was like, okay, I kind of got over that. So I should probably intro the game a little more. So Jusant, did we say the name of it? You said the name of it. Okay.
Yeah, we said it.
I said the
name. You said Donad. You said, okay. Yeah, I think
I stole your thunder there a little bit.
No, it's okay. I like the fact that I like this developer, and it was on Game Pass, so it's the kind of game that I tend to pick. I kind of want to start to just open up the discussion, because otherwise I'm just reading off a laundry list of things that I might have gripes on that some of you guys want to talk about. It's funny to say it just wasn't really exactly a game for me. And it kind of became more tedious to play than it felt like an actual adventure. And you guys know I'm not a huge games for readers, and this very quickly proved itself to be a game for readers. And I just started clicking through those. The moment I decided to stop reading those, I actually started enjoying it more, because I was like, let's get up this mountain.
I agree.
Let's get up this mountain.
You didn't really miss much, man. I found this game had a really bare bones story, and I do read these things in games, and those letters still did nothing.
They sucked.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that.
I don't know that I necessarily feel that way, but it's okay that you guys do. So
I didn't feel like I got any, other than everyone's moving up they're moving up the mountain, and then they all decided to start moving down the side of the cliff so they could get away because of the receding tide, which is what Jusant, they said at the beginning, right? The Jusant means receding tide or something like that. So
yeah, I actually thought the entire kind of concept, environment, just the design of it, I thought was kind of a really cool concept. It's one of the reasons I picked it, because I love the idea. Yeah. I mean, in real life, they find fossilized clams on top of mountains, and in the Alps and stuff. These things at some points were underwater and move around. So I like the idea of there being mountains with kind of a sea life aesthetic. I thought that was really, really cool. I got a bit confused at why there would be a desert section of a mountain in the middle of a mountain. Not exactly scientifically accurate, but then again, we also climbed probably 30,000 feet, and we weren't having any problems breathing oxygen. So
can I insert some interesting some things of the story that I thought were interesting.
Indies nuts.
Okay, so what you pick up as you go through, but it doesn't outright tell you, is that the world has stopped turning. So you're supposed to infer this, right? Because they mention a lot of the times it's never night anymore. It's never the sun is always there. The sun never moves. Nothing. So for some reason, the planet has stopped turning, and so everything is just there's no more centrifugal force in the planet anymore. So the ocean
did it
is just
slow down gradually, or did it just stop all at once? Because that would fling people the fuck off of it.
I know. So you just have to suspend your disbelief a little bit.
All right, we'll get away from science and science.
It doesn't really go into that, but the world has stopped turning. So the sun is just hanging in the sky in certain parts of the world, and so you just have you're talking about. Why is the desert in this middle of this mountain? Well, the sun is stuck right here, and it's baking directly onto this part of the mountain that you're going through. Whereas whereas earlier you were on a different part of the mountain. It's like this giant pillar, basically, right? That was rising up out of the sea. It was really high, and there were different levels to it. There was like the lowland level where all the boats would use to come in and dock, and they had this series of elevators and things that would go up and down the mountain for people that lived in like the heights and different parts of this thing. But because everything stopped, the ocean receded. Now you've got this desert at the bottom. There's no more water. It stopped raining. And people have to start looking for water. And so everybody had to basically come down and leave. And there's nobody left. There's no one there anymore. Except for this group of people that you find out about. There's a girl named Bianca. And you read letters that Bianca left in journals as you're climbing up. And her group was climbing up the mountain trying to look for a reason of why this happened. And they think that this happened because of these creatures that live in the clouds they think stole the water and caused this whole thing to happen. And they're on the search for these creatures to try to figure out what exactly happened and try to get water back so that they can kind of like try to regain some normalcy in their lives. And you read this discussion these notes that Bianca left about her uncertainty going on this adventure because she'd never gone on this kind of adventure before. She'd always been living at home with her parents, and her disagreement with her parents that she should even leave or even try to do this. And it's very exciting at first, and then there's a lot of highs and lows in terms of what they discover as they move on, and they get really depressed, and some people end up leaving the group that were her best friends. Anyway, I thought that part of it was really cool. And conceptually, the idea of the world stopping, despite the fact that not everybody was thrown off the planet,
sure,
was a really cool idea, I thought. And it made sense for me, like why when you're climbing through the mountain, like it's like a lot of these environments are really different because these areas are just like stuck in like perpetual night, or like perpetual heat or whatever. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that does add like a certain layer to it that I just wasn't going to take the time to get. So I'm glad I had you here to summarize that for me. It does add to thinking back on what I went through, some of the things I saw. I just wasn't going to be able to sit there and read through it all myself.
Sure, that makes sense. As far as the gameplay is concerned, though, I do tend to kind of agree with you guys that the climbing was not overly stimulating. It reminded me a lot, honestly, of kind of like Death Stranding, the Death Stranding walking. It's just left, right. It's like the climbing is the same thing. It's like one hand,
the difference is that when you're walking around in Death Stranding, we talked about this a little bit with Jusant earlier, like that's the Decima Engine Kojima game. It is stunning landscape. You're walking into this stunning landscape, whereas you're climbing a mountain and they're like ugly ass textures are this close to your damn face. Like that's what you're looking at most of the time. Is when you actually get up to where you can see and looking around. And I like that you can like look back down and kind of see like where you came from. There were some great views. There was one part that I absolutely loved. I thought was breathtaking. It was a part where you actually kind of go inside the mountain and there's like this just big giant open cavern and you can kind of see some like
cities and stuff down below.
And it's that was breathtaking, and that was my favorite. Although you had to do every time you had to like zip line down somewhere, like my brain was like, oh no, I got to climb up that much to get back to where I was.
So I feel like I played this whole game through in one sitting. Pretty much right after we had got done with our last episode. Right. I jumped on. I was like, I just want to play this and see what it's like. And then I got into the climbing. I was like, this is okay. It's pretty fun. And then I got probably about halfway through and I was like, I am kind of done with this climbing mechanic. It's just not drawing me anymore. And also when I tried to stop and read, I got through a lot of those same passages, Wes. I didn't find the one about the world stopped turning, that's kind of crazy. I didn't even know that it was in there.
You're just kind of supposed to infer that, right? Okay. Because they mention it at different points that, it doesn't get night anymore. So, and you're like, well, why?
But when it came to the overall feeling of it, it felt like they were trying to go for the relaxation and just the feel that got put into Journey.
Yeah.
And then for the climbing, it felt like they tried to do what they did in Astro's Playroom with the L2R2 climbing, and only got like 2/3 the way there on both of them. So it just kind of didn't hit the spots.
But Astro's Playroom climbing was the exact amount of like a slice of that was satisfying. Like, because that didn't overstay its welcome. And I feel like even the developers of Jusant of this game, like at some point realize, like, holy moly, I think people probably are getting really sick of all this climbing. So fuck it, Sky Whale's taking you to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
I was like, man, when are we gonna get to the peak of this thing? And all of a sudden it was like, no, Sky Whale just brings you to the top. And that was like that was my favorite part of the game. I was like, oh, take me, Sky Whale, take me.
So as far as like one thing I feel like they could have put maybe as a mode that might have made the climbing a little more enjoyable, and probably done a little bit of what Hunter wanted there, which was add some risk into it.
Like the risk.
Make it a free climb game. You can get to those little points. Yeah.
Let the little boy die. Let the boy die. Let the boy die. Sorry.
But like because I stopped using the baton things unless I like absolutely had to. Like they both was like there's a less parts you don't, and I kind of just so I could get through the rest of the game partially, but also just because it ended up being more fun to do, is I just started speed climbing the absolute hell out of everything. I was like, how fast can I get up this? Yes. Yeah.
The bugs, you had to like make sure you got like your bug team, and you're just like right bug, left bug, right bug.
Oh, those guys were annoying fucking bugs.
Yeah. So there's these little rock bugs that climb along the walls, and in some cases you don't really have a way to get from one place to another, so you have to like latch onto these little rock bugs that are climbing, but you can only hang on to one for so long until that bug gets tired and it just stops. So you have to make sure there's another bug within reach, so you can like move back and forth between the bugs so that it gets you up to where you need to go. I got stuck a few times just because I didn't do that.
Yeah, it was a kind of a pain in the ass. I really felt like, you know, with Journey and games like Journey, like early on when I realized, okay, this is definitely like going for like a Journey feel, like a Journey vibe, you know, I'm kind of isolating a bit. One of my immediate thoughts was like, I wonder what like the weird, really challenging evil section is going to be like. Like I thought that like 30 minutes in the game, I was like, we're going to get to a weird, hard evil part. And I was so disappointed when the evil part was just like kind of a stiff breeze. It was like, it's the windy section? It's just windy up here. I thought that was like a fun, like kind of like a fun change of pace. You know, it added a little different element to it, but like it didn't really do anything like crazy. Like it didn't feel like I think about like the snow section in Journey, when it's like you feel like you're fighting against everything in the world, like all the elements are bearing down on you and you're just like struggling and suffering through it. And I was like, if they were going for that kind of feel, that was a miss. I mean, it just didn't feel like, it just felt like, oh, it's windy up here, and then you made it to the top and Skywell took you a little further on and we're done. Although I honestly got stuck on the last part. I couldn't figure out how to climb up.
I want to read a comment about that really quickly.
Sure.
From our good friend Steven. So I'll read his full thing here. This game was a chore. The lovely aesthetic only pleases for so long before the inch-deep mechanics wear you down. Whenever a game presents their own take on Journey, I'm going to give it a shot in hopes of recapturing that vibe, but the jank and frustrating climbing mechanics never really went anywhere beyond swimming. The one bright spot was the wind gusts, which finally gave a fun alternative to the plodding pace, but on the flip side, you have the very ill-conceived wall bugs, which slow down to a stop after only a few seconds, which makes you flail your free arm around hoping to grab one of its kin, which always seem to be going the wrong way from your goal. Finally, the signposting before the final climb was insane. You just have to go to a random rock on the right of the entrance to the tower, and none of your little bug dude is losing its magic power is solved by going inside the building. This really should have been a cutscene and was just so weird. I thought the solution was definitely something to do with calling out, so I scoured the entire crater map looking for something to trigger. I'm sure some people may have walked straight up the little rock slab on the right, but an entrance to a building is usually a clear video game indicator where to go. I can't remember what I felt at the time of completion, but it's somewhere between a 5 and a 6 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I feel that so much. That last section was just like a hell of a place to get stuck after all of that game.
I got stuck there for sure. I didn't know where I was supposed to go. I had the same issue as Steven.
It sounds like he had a very similar feeling towards this game that I did.
There was that one, and then there's also one, I think it's the same Gust section, where you go up and it takes you to a spot and you're like, okay, I'm in this little like alcove area where there's like people had lived here. There's that thing in the back that you can like scan and it'll like show up, and you're like, all right, where do I go now? Like it doesn't give you any guidance whatsoever at that point. That's the only time I had to look up something. It's like, no, you got to go back and like drop down and then swing all the way over to the other side to get to.
Well,
it's like,
the thing that I really disliked about this game, well, I mean, there was a few things that I disliked about this game, but one of the things that I thought was really useless was they give you this mechanic with your little blob sidekick, right? And you can tell it's supposed to like show you where you're supposed to be going. It just gives you like a general direction. The general direction is always
like out. Yeah, it could be like the middle of.
But I'm like, I'm stuck. I don't know where I need to like. I don't know what the next place to latch onto is. I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. Oh, you need to go up. Wow, like it's so like innocuously vague that it's absolutely it helps nothing.
Unnecessary.
It's pretty telling too that we already got this far in this conversation and this little companion is only just now coming up, because that's how like underwhelming, insignificant that like that didn't even feel like a companion. I didn't even know what the hell it was, and
it was a little one of the big sky whale things.
Yeah, it was a baby sky whale. Yeah. I forgot the name of the actual animal.
Whenever
tell you what it's called.
I accidentally pressed left on the D-pad, I got so mad at myself because like I didn't want to pet that thing. I didn't want to have to sit there and wait to pet it. Like I didn't know what it was. It like there was no. They established no real bond with that thing, and then at the end, it's like all cold, and I guess you're supposed to care about it. But I was like, just let it fucking die. Like, who cares? You know, like I didn't have any emotional attachment to this creature whatsoever. I mean, it was cute as hell.
Heart of Stone, right here, everybody. Heart of Stone.
It was a hippo. Yeah, well, yeah, that's what 40
you didn't meet Gunnar Odin,
cynicism.
Did you?
I have a heart. I love other companions. Like this one just didn't. I didn't have any connection with this thing.
So this one won't make our top 10 companions.
The thing my favorite thing about this companion was that it didn't talk to me. You know, like
no, it chirps at you.
I didn't have to think about it really much at all, except for to get it to grow some plants every once in a while, which I did like. The few opportunities you had to actually grab a plant and then make it chirp and just ride that plant up, because you're just like, oh, look at how much mountain I'm covering.
Right.
Yeah, it was that part I liked, but yeah, I mean, it could have been anything.
What did you guys think about the collectibles in the game? Because for me, they were like,
they were
really
collectibles.
Pointless. Yeah. They were really pointless. Well, there was
go
the letters,
put the rocks.
There's the rock tower thing. There's those things, those bells that you turn. Right?
I didn't understand if those had anything other than just setting off the bell. Like, I kept looking like, is this going to have like some secret ending if I find all of them? It's like, no, there's nothing else. It's
and
just
then there's the like the wall portraits that you're supposed to like light up using your companion's chirp also.
Yeah.
It was all just very unnecessary. Yeah.
It didn't have any. I mean, maybe it sounds like if you didn't get anything out of it after actually having read through and understood all of the text in the game, if you didn't really have, if you found little meaning in those, then there probably wasn't much.
The letters I did get something out of. I mean, that was the story of the game. Right?
Well, yeah, but I would expect context
it was just the
for
rest
those
of that.
things.
Like, there was no context for that.
Like, why are we stacking rocks? Like, I didn't understand. Every time I stacked a rock, I was like, why did I do that? You know, like, is it just to say I'm this person on this journey now? Like, is that I didn't get it.
Yeah. I just want to read through the other two comments.
Let's hear
really
a good
quickly.
comment. I know we got at least
All
one.
right. So we got one. We got one from our good friend Artemis. Thank you, Artemis, so much for playing through this game with us, and we are so glad that you actually enjoyed it.
It made it worth it, honestly, that you liked this game, and I'm so happy you did.
Yeah.
Well, Artemis says, I finished the game. Hunter, this was a great choice. I was skeptical at first. I thought that it would be like Heaven's Gate, which I quit after 2 hours.
I would never live that down.
What I really loved about the game was the breathtaking scenery. My favorite was inside the cavern with the luminescent flora and the huge jellyfish. Yeah, that was really cool.
Really cool.
That was
really
a really cool area aesthetically for sure. I did not like the windy part. That gave me the hardest bit. But reading the letters and learning what the tower used to be was great. I enjoyed it quite a lot. My rating is 7.5 out of 10.
Well, I do completely agree with her that it is better than Heaven's Gate. Was it Heaven's Gate? Was it Heaven's Vault?
Heaven's Vault.
Because Heaven's Gate is the group that they killed themselves thinking they were going to like ride a comet spaceship to Space Jesus or something. So I also like this game better than that cult.
And phenobarbital and all had Nikes on, right?
Yeah, I'll take Jusant over Colts.
I think it's better than Heaven's Gate and Heaven's Vault, personally. But
agreed.
Anyway, all right. And then our last comment comes in from our good friend Randall Reborn. Randall says, I tried the game twice and played about an hour. Just not for me. Although I want this climbing mechanic attached to a game like Uncharted. The way they told the story didn't grab me. If the core of the game is going to be climbing, I need to want to care about why I'm doing that. For me, the game didn't succeed in doing that. Not a popular opinion by the looks of it. Man, I just wasn't getting why I'm climbing. And then the mechanic itself, when it was working, which was most of the time, was pretty fun, but felt more like work. Like I said, a game like Uncharted with this climbing mechanic would have added a little bit of depth to a boring part of the game, but to have the whole game be that was just not enough. Maybe if I played longer, it would have gotten better, but I didn't care enough to stick around.
Yep.
Yeah. Sums it up for me too.
You know, and
one thing makes sense.
One thing that he points out in that I want to I want to defend my choice here a little bit, because he mentioned it not being a popular opinion, that it wasn't for him. And one of the reasons that I was so intrigued by this game is it scored insanely well. I mean, you go look at it, it was very positively received. So I was like, well, there's something there. I think that this particular game just kind of got maybe assigned in a lot of outlets to people who probably were most likely to enjoy this kind of thing, and I think that this is a game that is for certain types of people. I don't think that most your average gamer is going to really be like that into this, without the stakes, without really anything other than kind of the climbing is the gameplay. It's pretty, it has good music, but it just doesn't, there's not anything to really grab your attention. Or I mean, it was fun. It was fun to kind of chill out at times and play it. And it was definitely one that I listened to podcasts playing, because I'm climbing, I'm listening to podcasts. But yeah, I just was a little bit surprised, having seen how well it was reviewed, that I didn't like it more than I did. So yeah. Anyway, I'm glad we played it. I like when they're, we don't have to love every game. And again, this was a nice length of a game. I think it took me about 4.5 hours to finish. It's not lost any money on it if you have Game Pass. That's where I played it. And so I'm not upset in any way that I played this. I'm glad I did. It's not something I'd ever go back to.
For sure. So do you guys have any other thoughts, or should we give our individual scores and comments?
Wrap it up.
Sure. All right, let's wrap it up. Hunter, as the one who nominated the game, why don't you go first?
All right. Yeah, I think I've said all I need to say about it. I would give it a 5. There's nothing really technically wrong with the game. It just would like it felt like Steven said, it felt kind of like a chore to play at times, and nothing really grabbed my attention. I couldn't even get into the story, and I do want to say that, like, for me, these kind of like text-based, like, finding like scribblings from people to like tell you a story, like that's almost always not going to be for me. It's just too much for me to like have this like, oh, there's this ancient civilization and you're going to read all about it, and 150 small notes left about the world. Like I will never be good with that personally. So I didn't realize that was going to be in this game. And so I just didn't get all of the fun story stuff. It sounds like there was some good stuff from you and Artemis in there that I probably would have liked if it could have just been delivered to me in another way. 5 out of 10 for me.
Fair enough. Brad?
Pretty much agree with everything he said. Climbing mechanics frustrating or like straight up boring at times. It gets old fast. A little more variety probably would have gone a long way for this game. Kind of like going off to explore off the beaten path was rarely rewarded, like besides with like collectibles, and often like these situations were like detrimental to my like good time, or like too obtuse to like figure out where you'll end up, and like with no map, there's like no frame of reference for where you're going. Like at times I found myself with like very little direction. That being said, like, I love the visual style, and the soundtrack is fantastic. The game would be almost meditative, meditative, if it wasn't for like frustrating gameplay there, like having to click the sticks over and over. Like it feels like it could have, like if it was just a little more forgiving, maybe I would have enjoyed it more. I don't know, let's say 6.0, 6 out of 10 for its beauty and the obvious like hard work that went into it. But like, unfortunately, I think this game probably started out as like a solid concept with like the best of intentions, but they just didn't stick the landing with a fun video game. So 6 out of 10.
All right. Zach?
Kind of feeding off of what Brad said there and what I said earlier. They tried to get something done. They had an idea. As I said earlier, they got 2/3 the way there, so they get a 6.5.
6.5. Okay.
Yeah.
I started off very much in the camp that I think the rest of you guys are in. I was telling Brad, like, I played the first like chapter or a little beyond a chapter of this game and was very, very hesitant about wanting to continue playing this game. I was dreading it, honestly. But as I played it, actually, the more I played it, the more interesting I felt it got. Not from a mechanic standpoint, that really never really stuck with me all that much. I kind of feel like everybody else here about the game mechanically. It is a bit of a chore in terms of the climbing and everything like that. There are a lot of ways that you can make climbing and swinging and jumping interesting, and this game was not that for me. But I did, like I mentioned earlier, get a lot out of the story that I thought that they were trying to tell. I thought was very interesting. The premise was very interesting. Aesthetically, it's a very nice looking game with the vistas, when you're, especially like we were talking about that part where you go inside the mountain and you see like all the crazy stuff going on in there. It's a nice looking game. I enjoyed the music. And it's not a short game, thankfully. So, was it a frustrating game to play? Yes, it was. But I saw, I think, maybe a little more silver lining in this game than you guys did. Not a lot, but a little. I'm glad I played it. For me, it was a 7. So I probably liked it the most, but still not like out of this world for me either.
I'm actually looking forward to editing this part of the video because it will require me to sit there and listen to the music, which was very good. I thought the music was.
For you.
Oh, nice. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right.
What's next?
Well, that's the end of the discussion on Jusant. You guys didn't like the meditative climbing, and the reading. So how about something a little more action oriented?
Yeah.
Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Next month we're going to be covering a little game called On Guard, which is a swashbuckling action-adventure title where you play as a sort of Zorro-esque swashbuckler who's trying to save the kingdom from an evil duke who's kind of overrun this kingdom. So this is very much like an action game where you're fighting, you're parrying, you're dodging. It's very tongue-in-cheek. It's very playful and kind of comedic. This is a PC-only game. I'm apologize to our community for all of our console warriors out there. Normally we try to get games that are on everything and as accessible as possible, but I just made the call this month. This is my choice, and I was really excited to play this game. I thought it would be something that we would all actually enjoy playing, and so that's my pick. So PC only. Sorry, folks.
PC Master Race.
Be excited about this one.
I'm not excited about playing it on my laptop. I don't like playing games on laptop.
Well, we'll try. Just again, we want people to at least be involved in this, even if like it's not something accessible to them. One of us will for sure, I think, get a capture of this and put it up if people want to kind of watch, see what the game's like, follow along with it. So one of us will get a capture of our playtime with it and get it posted to the channel on YouTube so that you can kind of get a feel for what the game is.
Yeah, that would be great. Zach, did you want to mention what you mentioned to us on the break about On Guard?
Oh, yes. I was just looking around on pricing right now. It is not on Game Pass, unfortunately, but it's full price on Steam right now. But I did notice that it is on sale on Humble Bundle. I do not know exactly how long it's going to be on sale on Humble Bundle. I could probably check that. But it was on a fairly good sale. I think it was 56% off for me. I do pay for a little bit of a higher service than Humble Bundle, but it should still be on sale for everybody right now. If
anybody wants to play it, copies are on Zach.
I only get that price on one of them. It's for the next 2 days that's on there, so probably not going to be open.
Yeah, I'm not going to get this video.
Maybe we could put out a notice.
I will not have this edited by them, but I'm going to leave all of this in. Just I might even edit a egg on your face. Like
you won't have seen a post from me. I will go. Well, maybe we'll figure out something.
Listen, go back in time and get it on Humble Bundle, okay?
Yeah.
Get that deal.
Take that Manus warp portal back in time, Kingdom of Ulasil, and get On Guard.
Maybe it'll be on sale on something else by the time this is out.
Yeah, probably. So, anyway, that's our game for next month, and with that, it's time for Hyper.
Do we do it right?
No, I screwed it up.
Good.
It's close enough.
I aim to mess it up every time. I don't do it on purpose, but I know it will get messed up.
That's all right. All right, so we're gonna run through our picks for the month of March for Hype Off. We mentioned already that we were really looking forward to talking about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but unfortunately that had to be dropped from the list because reviews came out already. We want this to be a fair competition, at least most of us do. But anyways, let's start with Zach. Zach, what are you bringing to Hype Off?
I wish I was still bringing Final Fantasy VII, but I am not. I am bringing a game coming out from the developer who has put out more games than it's amazing how many they put out here in the past few months. Atlas and Vanilla Nowhere with them. This is Unicorn Overlord is what I'm bringing. Yes. This is a tactical RPG. It's very unique. I didn't get a chance to get into the demo yet. I plan on getting into that over the weekend that we're recording this, but the concept seems to be very similar to Fire Emblem, where you're building your relationships with your troops and you're building up rapport with them. But the battle sequences are very different in that it's almost like you're making up your troop corps and kind of sending them around the battlefield to get in fights. But then the fights look a lot like, I want to say, why am I blanking on the name of this game right now? It's the war, not War Tactics, the one that got postponed because of Advance Wars. I feel like when you're looking at the battle, it's like got all the troops on both sides, and they both do their own things going back and forth. There's some like different magic things you can do with like or magic, but abilities you do with the area around like certain areas. So you can like knock down a troop before you get closer to them, so you have an easier time fighting. It just looks super cool, and it's got that Vanillaware aspect to it from like Age or 13 Sentinels. It has a very similar like kind of like a hand-drawn anime-ish look that Vanillaware is kind of known for at this point, and it looks fantastic. I'm super excited to play this. I was reading an article about it saying that they're taking a lot of aspects from older tactical RPG games and trying to bring these forward into a new game and like take the best parts of them. It just looks like it's going to be an absolute blast to play. I'm definitely going to pick this up and play a good amount of it after Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, I'm so hyped for this game. I've been hyped for this game. I've got this game pre-ordered for Switch. I had it pre-ordered before this demo came out, but I just downloaded the demo. I haven't jumped in yet either, but Caden was playing it, and so he and I were talking about it the other day. He said the thing that's really interesting about it is it basically incorporates this like the Gambit system from Final Fantasy 12 with all your troops. So cool. you don't. It's not like a RPG where you like select the attacks for your characters as stuff is happening. You pre-select all your tactics before the battles start, and then stuff just plays out as you like engage in these fights. But he said it's so granular, so nitty gritty because all of your troops are actually like squads. So you can have up to 6 characters in a squad, and like you have to like place them strategically like with each other, and then like go into each of their own individual tactics and how they respond. It sounds like just awesome. Just really cool.
Another thing with it that is very much like a Caden, a you, and a me thing is there are 60 different characters, or is it over 60 different characters you can recruit in the game and form relationships with and figure out the best place to use the battle. Hunter here just like, oh my God.
Oh, we got a dog show.
Puppy enters the room.
Yeah, Magnus likes to open the door, so he knows how to do that.
All right. Anyway, I am over the moon with Unicorn Overlord. But Zach, since you brought a type off, can you give us your score?
You're hyped. I'm hyped for this. I think that it's going to be a game that's not going to be for everyone. So we say that every month that we always bring games that it's not going to be for everyone. I really am looking forward to this though, so I'm going to throw this one in 84.
All right.
I thought for sure you were going to take my score. I felt it. But
Hunter, what is your score? We're dying to know now.
So I had originally decided after I don't know anything about this. I know Vanillaware puts out good games. They're usually pretty well received. I had originally kind of spotted it in my mind as an 81, but then I bumped it up to an 82 because Unicorn Overlord is like the best name for a video game. It's
a great name. I agree.
What a great name for a video game. I was like, that alone deserves a point. I'm interested in kind of checking out other people playing this a little bit. I doubt I'll play it, but yeah, I'm going to put it at an 82 just because that name is fantastic. And I don't know anything else about it. It's just me basically throwing darts blindfolded at this point.
There's a 7-hour demo available on Switch. If you want to check it out.
It's 7 hours.
Dude,
it's just a time demo. It's just the full game, and then like when the 7 hours are up,
that's a crazy demo. That's like
awesome.
More than even Lies of P demo, which was like the longest demo I feel like I ever played up to this point.
Yeah, it's beefy. All right, Brad, what do you think? Unicorn Overlord.
Yeah, this game looks sweet to me, and I'm gonna go optimistic. I'm going with an 85.
All right, that leaves me with the high 88.
Nice.
I think it's going to be very, very well received.
Yeah, personally. It looks really good, man.
Oh, I guess real quick because I did not bring it up. It will be available on everything except PC, which I thought was an interesting choice. So
console master race.
Yep. All right. I'm going to go next. A little game called Biomorph.
Wait, what did you score it? Did you score Unicorn? Did I miss that?
Yeah.
I gave it an 88. I said I was the high.
88. Okay, sorry, I missed that. I was off like thinking about the name of it or something. Sorry, go continue. Biomorph. The Petroidvania.
Okay. This is a game that we checked out at PAX last year when we were all there. I think did everybody play this, the demo for this?
Yeah.
This is a really, really cool looking Metroidvania. Probably the best conversation I had with a dev while I was there. They were just really open and interested in my opinion and interested in the feedback. And the game was fun as hell. You're this little cat alien person whose planet is being overrun by these other aliens who are trying to like take over the world, and you have the ability to basically copy and morph yourself into your enemies, so you can kill your enemies and then like scan them, and then you can turn into your enemies and use their powers to help traverse the environment or like get into fights and attack. And the gameplay was really tight. I thought it was really fun, nice looking. Seems like they're leaning pretty hard on sort of a Hollow Knight-esque look as far as like the aesthetics were concerned, sort of like hand-drawn animation, and it looked really, really nice. It was really fun to play. I really enjoyed playing the demo. This is hitting on PC on March 4th. I don't know how much how many eyes are going to be on this, so it's going to be interesting to see what it scores. It's a Metroidvania. There's a lot of Metroidvanias. I am giving it an 80. I think it's going to be sick. I just don't know how much it's going to stand out from everything else in the genre. Hunter, what do you think?
Yeah, I enjoyed playing it at PAX. I think one of the things that really stood out to me that I found to be like very appealing was that it had, I don't know how much of it is going to be in the actual game, but it had really good like animated cutscenes, like almost like in a Saturday morning cartoon type aesthetic. And I thought that the one that I watched, I was like very impressed with those. Like if this game kind of has a number of those in it, I could see that being very appealing to people. And definitely some of the upgrades and mutations and stuff that you do or that you just got access to in that demo were very cool. It was one of those that was like, man, this feels good to play. I actually watched at PAX, I watched Shuhei Yoshida play it randomly. And I like kind of eavesdropped on his conversations he had with the devs, and he loved it. And so I feel like in that wonderful man's honor, I'm going to give it an 84 just because like I couldn't find anything that I thought was really wrong with it other than that people for some reason like downgrade game scores just for being Metroidvanias these days because there's so many of them. But also this is a Petroidvania. After we played Gato Roboto and now this one, I'm going to continue to say Petroidvania, which I coined until it picks up steam and everybody starts calling them Petroidvanias. Like if there's an entire genre called Petroidvania eventually, I hope I'm the one who came up with that. There's probably other people who said that before me, but I like to think
you've heard it here, folks.
Petroidvania.
The term Petroidvania.
It's a cat in a Metroidvania type game. You get to
also. How did you
mutate.
not tell me that Shuhei Yoshida was there and you watched him play this game?
Okay, so I had a very weird thing happen where, so I saw him and I saw him playing. I saw him talking to the dev, and I was like, "That's Shuhei Yoshida." But he had the pass he had on was just a regular, like there for Sunday pass. It wasn't even Sunday; it was a Monday pass.
Oh, so that's why I was gone by then.
He just had a. It was Monday. I don't know. Yeah, that was. I think it was either one. It was
he had the 4-day pass. He had the 4-day pass. He had the same pass we had.
Okay, so he had a 4-day. Well, okay, thank you. Exactly. He had the same pass we had. Shuhei Yoshida didn't have a special pass of any kind, right? So I'm looking at him going, maybe that's not Shuhei Yoshida. And I don't want to go up and be like, hey, Shuhei Yoshida. And have him be like, no, that's not me. I was like really worried about having like an awkward social interaction because nobody was around him. I would have thought the guy would have swarms of people around him. So I was just in like a very weird moment where I didn't know if it was really him. But then I actually saw on Twitter later afterwards that I went to go look to see if like he was in fact at PAX, because I was sure he would post them, and sure enough, he had posted stuff and about that game on social media, I think, afterwards. So I was like, yeah, that was him. Yeah. And so I'm very much enthusiastic about this game. After seeing him playing, after playing it myself, it felt really good. The mutations look like they're going to be a lot of fun. I think that kind of makes it a little bit unique. It's a pretty game. Sure. It's a pretty game. Yeah. Like it does look like a kind of a current indie type game. I'm excited to play this one. Like more than Unicorn Overlord. I'm actually really looking forward to this one. It looks like
I'm excited to play the ball.
So 84.
I want the ball.
84.
All right. Brad, what do you think?
Still kind of the same, I had a really good time playing this game as well. Kind of in a sea of Metroidvanias. I'm probably going to take the low on this one. I'm coming in at 78.
All right. Fair enough. And Zach, what do you think?
So, I actually had experience with this game prior to PAX. I had read an article maybe a few months before PAX that was talking about a game that they coined Hollow Knight meets Kirby. And that is what led me to this game. And they had a demo out on Steam, so I went and grabbed the demo and tried it out. When I first tried it out, I was really not impressed. The controls felt kind of janky. The taking over creatures just didn't feel as good as it probably could have. So I saw the pack, was like, oh, it's cool. It's that game. And I was like, I've already played the demo. I'm not that excited for it. And then Wes came back going, oh my God, this game is amazing. So I had to go check it out again. Went there, played it. You're talking about the devs being very conversational and wanting to hear people's opinions. They were really interested in the fact that I had played the demo, and they really loved the fact when I told them that the quality changes that they had done since that original demo had changed the game drastically. It took it from somewhere where I was like, this is a game I'm probably not going to play, to this is a game I'm definitely going to play. They made it so the movement was cleaner. It felt smooth, fast, and like you want it to be in a Metroidvania where you're doing all this platforming. The transformations were fun, and they didn't feel junky or clanky at all either. And they'd also added in the ability in the demo at PAX to save a transformation so you could come back to it later. And that's going to be part of the game, is you'll save some of your transformations. Also, one thing I don't think I heard you talk about, Wes, is that there are special abilities that you get to use of the creatures that you transform into. And as you use those, the other creatures of those types will learn from that. So it becomes more difficult as you're playing it, because the things that you're doing with the creatures, they will start doing to you. So it's kind of a learning thing. But I am very high on this game now. If anyone else played the Steam demo early and you felt the same as I did, it has changed drastically. This is a game worth picking up and a game worth playing. I'm putting this one in at an 83.
All right, right on. I'm glad that everybody's excited for this game, because I think it's going to be great.
I also love the cat competition they were doing at PAX. People could send in pictures of their cats, and they were going to put 60 random cats throughout the game for you to find, and they'll be based off of people's actual cats.
Yeah,
so this is fantastic.
People love cats. People are cat crazy.
Right. All right. Let's talk about Hunter's hype off pick.
All right. I am very hyped for it, and bringing Dragon's Dogma 2. So probably the biggest, maybe the biggest, but I think it's probably the biggest, name on this list.
Hey, did Wout bribe you to pick this, by the way?
I was about to ask something like that too.
Yes. Wout, also AKA the hashtagonist, is not only the biggest Dragon's Dogma fan in the entire world, and I don't think that's debatable. I don't know it's debatable.
It's certifiable.
I mean, at one point, Zach, in your speedrunning love, he actually was like in the top 10 of like Dragon's Dogma speedrunners, like even on top of him, like playing the game, loving the game, talking nonstop about this game. Like, he was leading the charge. And I'm telling you, I think he played a part in willing Dragon's Dogma 2 into existence. Because
Told Huber.
I mean, he just was like, for years and years, he was like Dragon's Dogma 2. He would like post like pictures of himself with like his sunglasses with like the reflection on the screen in front of him. That he had like obviously like photoshopped Dragon's Dogma 2 into it. And I'm gonna tell you, the logo that he came up with for that was pretty close to the one that they actually used. So yeah, wow. I'd like to say wow, bribed me to make this pick, but you know, it was kind of a little bit of like a bit of a reverse. It might have been a little bit more the other way around. So a little special surprise here. I might get the rule book thrown at me for this one. But having Wout, who is the PR manager over at PlayStat Games now, who's up in his eyeballs with Balatro success, carved a little bit of time out of his Balatro success busy schedule to present the hype on our behalf here on this show, as well as make the score for me. So without further ado, here is Wout with his Dragon's Dogma 2 hype and score.
So Dragon's Dogma 2 is going to be the first 20 out of 10 video game in video game history. How do I know that? Because Dragon's Dogma 1 was a 10 out of 10, and the 2 in Dragon's Dogma 2 stands for twice as good. So Dragon's Dogma 2 is going to have everything you loved about the first game, plus more cool shit. They have giant enemies roaming the landscape, dynamic, destructible environments for you to use in your fights against these giant enemies. It will have different languages that your pawns can translate for you. It's going to have the best English countryside weaving grass that you've ever seen in your entire life. Now, of course, there is going to be one outlet that is going to only give this like a 9.9. So it's going to drop the average down a little bit to maybe a 9.2 on OpenCritic, but still, Dragon's Dogma 2 is going to be one of the best games of the year. Only standing toe-to-toe with the roguelike deck builder Balatro, which is now available for $14.99 on every platform. Other than that, you should be excited for Dragon's Dogma 2 because it's going to be a banger!
That was amazing.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much for that. How cool.
Oh, man. I am so glad I asked.
Problem.
All right. That was amazing. That was amazing.
So glad I asked him to do that.
Thank you.
All right, what more can we say? What more can we say?
Officially, my score is a 92. A big thanks to Wout for, again, putting that little video together there for us.
Thank you.
And
very cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I don't think he's wrong. Honestly, that's about where I had it in my head. I don't think the original Dragon's Dogma would have scored that well. It's a bit of a cult hit. Obviously Wout's favorite game in the entire world. But I think that because of the cult following of it, like, and you're talking about Capcom here, who, like, we're in the age of Capcom. This was like basically their response to Skyrim originally, and now they're kind of off on their own. I think they're going to put a lot more attention into this. I mean, we're talking about amazing monster fights, like, and like just unique mechanics and just awesome RPG elements and great class building. And it's hard to imagine this not being a great game. And I do also just want to add, since he did like hilariously plug Balatro in there, to give a shout out to that game, which I actually need to pick up and play. If y'all haven't heard about this is honestly,
it's taking the world by storm.
It is like a lot of people's current obsession right now. It's like a poker deck builder. I've seen some hilarious like comments from people. Like Danny O'Dwyer said, like, you know, is it okay if I tell the judge that I didn't pick my kids up from school because I was playing Balatro, stuff like that. Like it's apparently like a very, very addictive, like almost on the level of, OG solitaire like type deck builder game, but with like some panade. So I'm kind of excited to try that one. I'm very thankful for Wout for giving us his hype off, because that was very special, and love that dude. He's such a gem. Thank you.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Absolutely.
What do you guys think?
All right, so
just keep it in mind. You don't want to disappoint them.
Let's go around the horn here, Brad.
I'm hyped too, man. You watching over the trailers and stuff for this, it looks really solid, like really looks like a ton of fun. I'll probably get into it at some point. I figure 88.
All right. Fair.
Any game that you can cast a spell to create a like structure of ice that goes up into an ogre and then go run up said structure of ice to go smack it with a sword gets a 9 out of 10. The game's going to be amazing. Also, Wout talked me into how good this game is on the one GGD episode I did with him, because we did talk about it and his absolute obsession with it. So yes, this is going to be a 9 out of 10, or I guess a 90. Yeah.
Okay, I have no reservations whatsoever to say this game is going to be amazing. I think it's going to be awesome. The thing about it is, I think that like Dragon's Dogma 1 was sort of a interesting game because it was a little bit janky. And that's part of the reason why people like it. But I think that this game is going to be a little janky too, but maybe not as much as Dragon's Dogma 1. But they're going to leave that jank in there because that's what the fans expect, right? But I don't think that jank is going to sit well with everybody. So just specifically for the terms of hype off and picking my score, there's always some ding dong, right? That says, "Oh, this is terrible. This janky thing. Oh, the story was boring. Blah 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 blah," and they bring the scores down. And I hate to say it, but I think that that's what's probably going to happen a little bit here with Dragon's Dogma 2. So I think that my final score is 85, which is a very, very solid score. I think this game is going to be a 9 out of 10. It's going to be a 9.2 out of 10, personally. But I think it's going to score just a little bit lower because you're going to have those ding-dongs that bring it down, just like they always do, just like they did with Helldivers 2, just like they did with, some of our other picks, The Last Faith and some of the other things. Also, a game that our friend Wout was marketing on, Last Faith, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So
that did happen.
Anyway.
They did have a ding dong in that one. You're right. No ding dongs in Bellatrix so far, though. It's 100%, I think, on recommendation.
Not yet.
No ding dongs in Bellatrix yet.
All right, so my score is 85. And that just leaves one hype off game left, which is from our good friend Brad.
Yeah, I went with Rise of the Ronin. This is like an action role-playing game coming out on the 22nd of March by Team Ninja. It's coming out for PS5, PS5 exclusive. This is your, late 19th century period piece. Tsushima vibes like all over it, like visuals look awesome, but provided the gameplay is good, which I'm expecting it to be, I definitely have interest in this one. I'm thinking it's going to get right around in the 86 range. That's my guess. How about you guys?
Who's going next, Wes? You want me to go since I'm talking?
Zach.
Zach.
Yeah.
And
then Hunter can go. And you can tell him how wrong he is.
Sure.
I think this is good. This looks like a fun game. We've been over how much we love ninjas in this, and I mean, it's maybe not ninjas because it's Ronin, it's samurai. But I know that like Ghost of Tsushima, a lot of people were really into the samurai side of that instead of just the straight ninja. So I think that there's going to be a lot of aspects to it that I'm really interested in. I guess I haven't looked too deep into the mechanics side of it, but I'm hoping that they will put in like different sword schools, and you can kind of go learn from the different sword schools. And one of my favorite books of all time is Musashi, which is about a Ronin who went around all these sword schools, challenged them, learned techniques from them, and then built his own style. So I'd be really, really into this game if they were able to do that. It does look absolutely gorgeous. I think that we're going to come in around in 86 for this game.
All right, Hunter.
Man, these Team Ninja ones they're tough cookies, man. They're tough to predict. Sometimes I think they overcomplicate things so much. Like Zach was just touching on a little bit of the complexity there with like some of the mechanics and things. They add a lot of things, a lot of mechanics. I don't know this to be true. Just watching a little bit of it kind of looks like Team Ninja Sekiro in some ways, right?
Yeah, they're definitely kind of trying to go with that, with the grappling hook and stuff like that.
They got the grappling hook. They got a little bit of like the parry, like kind of mechanic. And I think one of the things I struggle with, like I like Neo and some other games, but like one of the things I struggle with is there's just something that doesn't quite feel right to me about a lot of them. Like if I want Sekiro, which feels amazing, maybe one of the best games feel wise ever to play, I'm just going to play Sekiro. And the overcomplication, I think, drags them down sometimes, where they're almost just like too hard or like too confusing, or the loot system isn't good, or whatever it is. I'm going to say it's still going to be good. I'm going to say an 81. But I want these games to be better than I usually find them to be when I play them.
All right. Fair enough. For my own score, I'm giving this game an 85. The reason I'm giving it an 85 is because this is a PlayStation exclusive, and Sony is standing behind this game. So I don't think that they would do that if they had a doubt that the game would be good. That said, I am not impressed with this game. Everything I've seen from this game, I think that from an aesthetic standpoint, it's terrible. I think that it looks like I am not. I don't know. It's not appealing to me. Everything looks like sort of like scratchy and just kind of watered down, and the colors are muted. And it's just not an aesthetically pleasing game. I haven't seen anything that really like lights my fire in terms of it being interesting from a story standpoint. This is supposed to be like when Japan starts changing, sort of like a Dragon Ishin, right? So like guns are just starting to be introduced and stuff like that. So I think there's going to be some of that stuff. You have the glider thing, which is sort of interesting, but I don't know. It's just something about it just doesn't appeal to me. If I'm going to play a game on March 22nd, it's going to be Dragon's Dogma 2. It's not going to be Rise of the Ronin. I'm a lot more interested in Stellar Blade, honestly, than I do at all.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
For Rise of the Ronin.
We all do.
I don't know. I think that it's probably going to score well because I think Sony sees something that I don't see. But I'm just not interested in this at all, at least at this point. So, but I think it's going to be an 85.
And what did you give Dragon's Dogma 2 that you're way more excited for?
Also an 85.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure I was clear on that. I mean, you're the freaking master of this, so I'm not doubting.
Not really, no. Brad's the master.
Brad is quietly the master, but you're also.
You know what's funny? You know what? I want to say something about Hype Off, and I said it to excuse me, sorry, I said it this morning, and it's like you know how like like to have like those Super Bowl boxes, right? And then like sometimes they'll get like a chicken to just kind of make picks. Yeah. I don't for the record, like I don't ever read reviews for anything. I never have. Like I'm not like a review guy. So I always figured there's no chance in hell I'm ever gonna win this thing. But it's just funny because I'm just like kind of randomly picking numbers just based on feelings mostly, and I do seem to win. So that's.
I think. Did you just describe yourself?
Chicken who wins the Super Bowl thing,
you just described yourself as the Super Bowl chicken. Like
that's pretty much what I am, man. I'm like the Super Bowl chicken around here.
Just randomly pecking at things.
Bingo.
Right. Fair enough.
Well,
it seems to work better than me.
So our games next month are Biomorph, Unicorn Overlord, Dragon's Dogma 2, and Rise of the Ronin. Some really solid titles, I think. That being said, our Super Bowl chicken this month is none other than Hunter Pearson.
Dude.
Don't worry, this just looks like dancing you guys, but I'm going to edit in music and lights and confetti.
Prove that if you complain enough
horns.
about not winning, that you'll finally win.
I mean,
this is Hunter's first official win.
I definitely am blind squirrel nut scenario right here. So I did win this one, and by like a decent margin for this. It wasn't super close. I think it was like 7 or 8 points. So I'll take the win.
Yeah,
and I'm so happy about the loser.
Just really quickly, because I think we're going a little bit long on Hype Up, but I just want to run through kind of what the games were and who scored the closest, the actual. Hunter was the winner. The first game was Banishers Ghosts of New Eden. That was nominated by me. The final score on that was 80. Hunter got closest to that with an 81. The next one was Pacific Drive from Zach. The final score on that was 78. The closest on that one was, I think,
Hunter.
80. Persona 3 Reload, brought by Brad. Final score 88. Closest was Brad with an 88.
Knows his Persona.
Yep.
I mean, if you get lost that one, then that's not Super Bowl chicken material there. That's just Brad.
No, that's that insider knowledge, I think.
Yeah, seriously. Honestly. Insider trading.
Yeah. Then we had Skull and Bones. Final score of 60.
Hot garbage.
I'm so upset that Sal got closest to this one.
Yeah,
55.
55. I was like a bit of a joke score, and then he got closest. I was like, oh, jeez.
I don't think he was kidding at all.
No, he was not kidding. I rolled my eyes when he gave it that, but like I just didn't know what I was talking about. Yeah, won't be playing that one.
Good on, Sal. Well done.
The last game was Helldivers 2, and the final score on that was 82. Hunter was closest with an 86. So, well done, Hunter. Good job on your first win. Congratulations. You've earned it.
I do. I earned it, and I deserve it.
Well done.
And so Hunter was the winner. Can you tell us who was the loser this month?
Well, that would be my sweet little baby brother, Zach. I couldn't have picked a better loser if I tried. I always wanted and thought and daydreamed about my first Hype Off win, having Zach as a loser, so that I could spend a little time amusing myself at his expense, which is one of my favorite things to do in the entire world. So good for me.
It's not joking.
Nope.
So that means that Hunter gets the final word and Zach has consequences as the loser. Stay tuned after the close of the show to listen to that. That being said, we made it to the close of the show. This is it.
Ooh.
Great episode, gentlemen.
Amazing.
It was a pleasure.
Welcome back, Wes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you back. And also, a big thank you to Sal for joining us last time. He was great on the show. And
Sal did a great job.
Yeah, I had a ton of fun with Sal
always
last
a treat to listen to, and he's a funny dude.
Absolutely. So just a quick reminder again, next month we're going to be counting down arcade games. So look for our posts on the Discord soon. Looking for your nominations. We'll be playing On Guard for the Indies Nuts game. And a lot of good games to get hyped about coming in March too. So thanks again to our patrons, Pucho, Dakota Falk, Dan Gieslin, and Aunt Jay. We appreciate your support. And until next month, happy gaming. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
So, as the loser for tonight, because my big brother gets to gloat in my face and he has got his smug look on because he's so happy, I have to go into a slight story time that is Hunter's favorite story of me doing something stupid and ridiculous, and he giggles about it nonstop. So, while I was in college, I was spending some time up with Hunter in Richmond, living with him and his family, which I really appreciated. That was great of them to do that. But
get on with it.
I had a bad habit of staying up late and playing video games and finding whatever snacks I could. And there was a moment where they went out to dinner and came back to me asleep on their couch with more cellophane wrappers than you could ever imagine from specifically wintergreen mints.
Yeah, little mints.
I had like the little ones that are about like that big. I had somehow in my stupid young college self gotten into them and was like, these are a good snack, and ate I had maybe like 30 or 40 of them. Just an insane amount. And according to Hunter, because those mints belong to him, I have to buy him a replacement bag. So Hunter will be having a replacement bag of wintergreen mints coming his way soon. Also, because I was a dumbass and thought this is what Hunter was originally going to ask me to proclaim in my loss here. Hunter also beat my time on Mount Wario, and I haven't had a chance to go fix it yet, but currently he is the record holder and is the winner. So congratulations. Happy about your win, Hunter. I'm going to send you the biggest bag of wintergreen mints I can find.
All right. Thank you, Zach. That was quite a scene. I mean, nobody's breath has ever been fresher than Zach's was that night.
Yep.
For my final word, I'm going to say, since it came up during the Last of Us Left Behind discussion, go watch Children of Men. If you haven't ever watched it, I'm jealous. I wish I could erase that movie from my brain and rewatch it. If you have, it's still worth going back and watching again. One of the most underrated movies ever made. Again, an inspiration for The Last of Us. Probably one of the best long shots in movie history. Just an incredible movie. And I will also say, join the Discord. Helldive with us. We need Helldivers. Okay? We're dying by the thousands. We need new recruits. And be excellent to each other.
And party on, dudes.